It's the Lotto America Ticket Snap. Buy a Lotto America with All-Star Bonus ticket and enter online for a chance to win Nebraska football Skybox season tickets and other great football prizes. Lotto America top prize odds, 1 in 26 million.
The time between Memorial Day and Labor Day is known as the 100 deadliest days. Students are off for the summer, people are taking vacations, and the days are longer. It's a recipe for good times and long-lasting memories. Sadly, it accounts for 37% of Nebraska's traffic fatalities. Someone's waiting for you at a ball game, a party, or a wedding. Don't let a crash keep you away. Focus on driving. Brought to you by the Nebraska chapter of the National Safety Council and the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
I'm Taylor Bishotti with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. Free agent safety Jamal Adams agreed to terms on a one-year deal with the Titans. The three-time Pro Bowler was released by the Seahawks in March after spending the past 4 seasons in Seattle. 49ers tight end George Kittle told the Rich Eisen show he's not concerned about a deal getting done for wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, saying they often get done just before the start of the season. Cardinals running back James Conner rushed for a career-high 1,040 yards in 2023, but says he wants that to be the lowest he rushes for in his career going forward. Conner saying, quote, "That's the floor, not the ceiling." And the CW Network announced former Patriots head coach Bill Belichick is joining Inside the NFL as an analyst. Belichick saying of the new gig, quote, "I've always appreciated Inside the NFL's depth of analysis, and I hope to bring the same detailed insight." This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month, but you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Sponsored by Age of Learning.
All right, when it comes to getting life insurance for your family, a lot of excuses can get in the way. But ask yourself this: if something were to happen to me, who would pay the mortgage, the kids' education, and the other bills? Then forget the excuses and check out Ethos Life, the online, easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes. Ethos has rates that you can afford, like a $500,000 policy for a 40-year-old male starting at $1 a day or $30 a month with a few health questions and no medical exam. Get your free quote right now at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com. Not available in all states. Rates do vary.
Success in today's electrical market requires your company to be able to adjust to an ever-changing field. A partnership with IBEW Local 22 gives you that flexibility with access to journeymen, apprentices, proven training programs, marketing assistance, entry into markets not available before, ability to expand and contract with changing market conditions, and a benefits package for you and your employees. Contact Bob at IBEW Local 22 for additional details at 402-980-7596.
Watching a ball game at Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is pretty awesome. Oscar's offers the MLB package, so your team is always on their upgraded audio-video system, and nothing is better than watching the game with a cold frosty one, Oscar's Pizza, or award-winning char-buffed wings. And with daily lunch and dinner specials, it's really a no-brainer. So get ready to watch your favorite team play ball at Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill, 173rd and West Center Road, and takeout at 162nd and Maple.
I want to learn how to cook, but I keep ordering takeout.
I plan to rearrange my closet, but I stopped after picking the clothes up off the floor.
Accomplishing goals is hard, but when your goal is to learn a new language, Babbel makes it easy. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel's award-winning language learning app will help you start speaking another language. Start having conversations in as little as 3 weeks.
Comment tu t'appelles? Comment tu t'appelles? Vous êtes où?
Vous êtes où?
Babbel's bite-sized lessons make it easy to learn words and phrases you'll actually use. So when someone asks,
"How's your French going?"
you can say,
Babbel est amusant et facilite grandement l'apprentissage d'une nouvelle langue. Et cela ne prend que 15 minutes par jour.
When you want to really learn another language, it starts with Babbel. Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Roofing, siding, and gutters. Make the right call with the rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
1620 The Zone.
What's Skeens got here? Here's a 2-2. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. Inside fastball. 10 strikeouts for Paul Skeens.
The 2-1 hit in the air, deep right center. Back goes Mullins to the center field fence. That ball is long gone. Dansby Swanson with a long home run to right center. More towards center than right, but long gone. He got all of that one. Here's the pitch on way. Suzuki hits one to deep center. Back goes Mullins near the center field fence. It's off the fence and bouncing back toward the infield. Racing around third is Bush. He will score. Suzuki to third, a sliding triple.
First pitch. Fastball, and that's lifted into right center field. That's down for a base hit. Diaz can walk home, and Jeremy Pena gives the Astros a 2-1 lead.
Swing, and it's good wood to deep center field. Back goes Gordon, and that is off the wall in center field. Loperfido racing around third base. Here's the throw in. Safe with the head first slide. 4-2.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome in a feel-good Friday. We are live. We are local. We are a week away from a video game. We'll be 7 weeks away from the college football season. It'll be like March Madness next Friday, I think, where there'll be little productivity. Mm-hmm. People will have gotten the game at midnight, and they will be playing. Some will say, RIP PS3. The last time I was with you and I played a video game that had college football players. But we are a week out from people losing their mind over a video game and college football being back.
At what point will you
might cut out there?
No, I had to.
Are you pregnant?
There
was a pregnant pause there.
I was trying to add a little dramatic effect there. What would be at what point? I'm thinking about the age where you play the first round. Say you're just going to play one game. And then before you realize it, it's the 4 or 5 hours that have gone by, and you're like, oh, God.
That's easy to do.
It really is. It's the time vampire of all time vampires that it's been a very long time, as you guys know, since I've been gaming, and I'm looking forward to getting back into it. But at what point do I like, Jesus, I got to pick Reese up from daycare already? Oh, my God.
Oh, you got Kids Uber. You guys heard about Kids Uber?
Yes. And
okay, it's not as big in smaller cities.
Yeah.
But like in Los Angeles, for example, I know somebody that maybe has used it because, husband and wife were a little busy. Yeah, they have. It's a vetting process. It's like a random Jill,
like a babysitter.
Jill and Joe are running. Yeah. They have a vehicle that has space. So they just go pick up kids.
It's like, oh, Bob's got 5 stars. Good enough for me.
Just use Kids Uber.
I don't know if I can do that, man.
You
okay?
You're playing a game. You're dialed in. You don't have time to go pick up the kid.
I know. You get to the deadline. It's fourth quarter. Maybe you're in the 2-minute offense. All of a sudden, you're like, Jesus, their daycare closes. I'm getting a call from daycare. You gonna pick your kid up or not? Well, hey,
if you run the ball more,
I'm in the fourth quarter. There's been a lot of replay. I can't help it.
So, like next Friday, we're to Friday. Last Friday, we had a nice little news dump. My bones are aching, and we'll have another news dump today.
Oh,
prediction or just hoping?
Oh, my bones are aching.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes when you get a little bit older,
that means the weather's coming in.
Yeah, when your knee.
Yeah.
So I used to not believe this. Old Grandpa Demuth, rest in peace. He was my favorite grandpa. My other grandpa was a bum. Seriously, he was a bum. Like he wasn't nice to me.
Oh, okay.
He was nice to his sons and his daughters, but to me, I don't know. He had something against me.
Oh.
Maybe because I was I was the oldest grandkid. He was just very nice. So I didn't like him, and I would get sent to his house, like to spend like a weekend. And I'm like, oh Jesus! But Grandpa Demuth, in my power rankings of grandpas, because we all do this, he's at the top.
He's the GOAT.
Oh man, he was salt of the earth. Ran a feed store in Jessup, Iowa.
Nice.
When was a good. Came back from the war, made up for lost time. Had 12 kids. Seriously.
Oh,
just on my mom's side of the family, there were 12 kids.
Jesus.
Well, it's Catholic.
That's true.
I mean,
so technically,
that
you're
is
right.
very true.
The Demuths in Jessup, Iowa, single-handedly supported the Catholic Church. I mean, they passed the
full congregation every Sunday.
Yeah, they passed the bucket, and people are like, "Oh, geez, now we can get a new addition on the church because the Demas had another kid."
They had their own 2 rows.
But my grandpa is like the guy, and yeah. So
I just feel like you might have done something to the other grandpa.
No, it
doesn't always.
I don't think he liked young people.
Oh,
that was the problem.
So he's just grouchy guy. Maybe?
I think that's a prerequisite of a grandpa and a grandma. They have to like young people.
Yeah,
because he might have been on one of the rare ones that didn't embrace their grandchildren.
Oh,
and I don't know. And he was in good health. I don't know. I just have a great relationship with him.
Okay,
but Grandma Demuth.
Okay, I didn't know if it had anything to do with bread and cheese.
No, that's long gone. I promise I won't swear today.
It was a really good story.
You could just be playing, and you get the kids Uber. You got your mom and dad. I go pick up the kids.
True.
You'll be fine. You keep playing because there's a news dump. I got in my bones. Like Grandpa Demuth did when the weather was coming. He would say, "Oh, my knee is starting to hurt." And I'm like, "Really?" And then my grandma said, "Yeah, he's got a bad knee from the war."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So the weather was coming in. I don't know, just the bones are aching that maybe we'll get a news dump. But the ultimate news dump nationally would be next Friday.
Yes, because everyone's going to be like...
When all these people are playing the college football 25 game, they're like, man, let's drop that Kirby Smart has suspended himself for a game because his guys don't know how to drive.
Again, yes.
And I'm still playing.
Yep.
Oh, ain't going to affect me. Dynasty mode, Georgia.
Speaking of which, I got Georgia coming up in a bowl game. All right. No, you're getting your head up from anything. That is, you're right, though. That's like the one day that if you are invested into the game, how little you'll actually look at your phone on Friday. That's the one thing that will keep people even keeping their phone at arm's length on this one.
Telling you, next Friday, the lead up to it is going to help college football so much.
Yep. Yes, it will.
Especially in areas where college football is not big. Because kids, adults will play the game and they will get to know the players and you will talk about college football. When that went away for a decade, I think places like, on the East Coast where you have college football, but it's not the college football that we have around here. And you kind of like, oh, okay, I'm just an NFL person. Now the game is back and you're going to be playing Shadur Sanders and Ewers and all the great players and the great teams. And then maybe you're hoping, if you're on the college football side, that young kid gets invested in actually watching the game on television. So there's a lot of benefits to the game coming out. I don't want to hear from people in Washington that are going to tell me that this is bad for kids. It's actually great. And if I was a college football coach, I would purchase the game and I would have my quarterbacks play that game.
Yes. And we'll talk to Vers later, but when he brought that up about advancement in young men or kids when it comes to quarterback play and pre-snap anticipation, he gave credit to Madden and college football of gamers that with a lot of the different routes that you are going to be able to visualize before you actually snap the ball, different concepts, hot routes, all of that. We didn't have that vocabulary going into high school football when I was that young. Like we didn't have that type of anticipation.
The offense was not that complicated.
It was not. It really wasn't. He had a loaded box. Like, I don't know, coach called this play, so I got to run it.
You're right. Like back when we played.
Oh, God, there was no audibles or anything.
Like 24, power 24 on 2. And that would mean that the fullback would get the ball and he'd have to run through the 4 hole.
Slot left, 24 dive on 2.
That was like the Urbandale and Millard West offense.
I'm going to need a cigarette after this.
I mean, and then if we had to start getting motion in there too, oh God, Z motion, and they're like, whoa, what are we doing here?
What are we doing? Moving the tight end to block for the run.
I think we've made football complicated.
We have.
Back in the day, it was very simple. Yep. I didn't have banana Y, X, Y, Z.
Right.
Sugar daddy, mama, come on.
Didn't even eat a banana. At
ran
the damn ball
in Pee Wee and midget football. So it was the quarterback. Anytime the quarterback would carry the ball, it'd always be a 1 in front of it. So it'd always be a teen. Okay, so we would go 13 sweep, 18 option,
13 personnel.
So no, you would know that's just I'm the one.
No, I know.
And then I'm attacking that gap.
Yeah,
and then the 2 would be the I back, and then the 3 would be the fullback. I mean, it was so easy. And then, God, what did we like? We would literally, our passing until I got to high school, like our passing, we would literally just say the route. Or like
screen.
I think we had. Oh, my favorite always was, because it was the tight end, would go quick pop pass.
Yes.
Yeah. Slot left, quick pop pass. You're like, yes, this will work every time, because all the kids are gonna go to where the slot is, and then the tight end's gonna be wide open. You just snap it, boom, quick pop pass, buddy. And then, but we would be like, okay, slot left, chair out. And so you knew the one guy that was on the slot, he was running the chair.
Yeah.
Everyone else pass block. It was so easy.
Kids, you will not understand.
Nope.
You're trying to make the game of football way too complicated.
Yes.
I mean, football was simple. Now, I'm not going to say football was better back then, but football was simple. But in this game, I mean, next Friday is.
You mean
sorry.
I'm going to need to throw more than 5 times in this game?
Well, it depends on you. I mean, are you going to play with one of the academies?
Well, no.
Okay.
Very polarizing day in Omaha, Nebraska today, in my opinion, on this Friday, the 12th of July.
National
a couple
French
of things.
Friday?
You know, we are a vibrant, growing community.
Agreed.
Is it a sign of us, or just the times, that a Costco opening in Omaha is a big, big deal?
It's a big
First
deal.
of all, I feel bad for the people that live 180th to 204th on Maple.
Yep.
Because traffic is already a pain in the and it's only going to get worse. But we have a new Costco in Omaha that is opening today out at 180th and Maple. People are losing their mind. There are stories that are being written.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that are doing live reports in front of it. And I'm thinking,
Costco.
We're a town of 1 million people. Does this need to? Well, you know where I'm going today to celebrate the opening of the Costco.
The other Costco.
120th.
I'm going to the one on 120th. in
Oh,
Dodge.
it's going to be a ghost town.
I'm going to be there. I'm going to look around. I'm going to go, where'd everybody go? Where'd everybody? This is great.
As much as
I want people to go to the new Costco than the old Costco, the OG Costco.
You sound like me.
I want you to let me know how that is, because I don't think I could ever experience a Costco as a quote ghost town, but as much as a Costco could be. So I will be very, especially on a Friday too.
Yeah.
I'll be very curious to know what your experience is on 120th today.
Speaking of the place opening today, the Costco guys are going to stop by. They got a little ditty for us.
Nice.
The Costco guys are going to be joining us here on the radio.
Oh,
they put a little jingle together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited to play that for you a little bit later.
Okay. All right.
You guys will enjoy that.
I'm sure I will.
I mean,
it's just full of surprises.
Picking up where we left off yesterday.
Hey, and speaking of that warehouse, which we've just given a ton of free publicity to,
Yeah, we have.
they upped
don't
the
need to do
membership
it.
price.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, as long as you don't touch my hot dog. As long as you do not mess with my hot dog, I'm okay. You can raise the price. But once that hot dog goes to $1.75, $2, then I might have to look at that membership. I might have to think, what is Sam? Does Sam's have a better chicken bake?
Oh,
which might be one of the more disgusting things.
That just doesn't sound very good.
No,
not what I'm going there
It's
for.
like
Never
a
had it.
log with food inside of it.
Oh.
And I don't know if you've
Could
eaten
say
a
it's
log.
like a bowel movement.
I would hope that you have not eaten a log.
No.
But that's what it looks like, and it just does not look appealing.
Do they have good pizza at Costco? I've never been to a Costco.
Costco's-
so I-
oh, you've never been to a
okay.
Costco.
Now you okay. So I when you said they have
I'm
good
not
pizza,
going.
I thought you were going.
Yeah.
I've been to Costco.
No, no.
Because Costco pizza is good.
No, no.
It's very basic,
I'm not
too.
made of money, so I've
Some
never
people,
been to Costco.
some people, Gary, go once in a while to Costco just for lunch.
No, I don't think
you're
that-
not alone. I know
Yeah.
people who do that.
People
Yeah.
did that at IKEA.
Or when they go to
Breakfast.
Costco, they're going. They're like, well, I'm going to have lunch here, and then if I got to pick something up, I will too.
I like a good cheap lunch, so Costco is a good spot. Some people like to go to intermingle with the opposite sex, and they go like to Target for lunch.
This is the thing.
You are right about
It
Target.
is.
Pick up moms at Target.
No, it's become a thing, like in this town, where single people will go to Target and they will hang out in the little food
court area.
where the
Yeah.
Starbucks is.
Yeah.
And you never know. I mean, you already got a kind of a high end clientele to go to Target.
It is Target
See,
Circle
to,
Week.
To throw another back in my day,
Mhm.
we were always told I always laugh at this one, church or grocery store where you could find a nice woman.
Yeah.
Hashtag church one.
Now it's Target. That's where you can. Chances are there's going to be a male or female of the single persuasion that you'll be able to if you take the initiative of engaging in conversation. Could go well for you.
Where on your rankings of where to meet people in Omaha would like a Lowe's or a Menards be?
You could save big money at Menards.
I don't know if I
would throw in Big Lots, but Big Lots is out. There were probably a lot of romances that were started at Richmond Gordman.
Oh, I'm sure. Yes, absolutely. Gosh, rest in peace, Richmond Gordon. I told you this one before because I've gone every now and then. And if I was a single guy, I would think that this would have been a very good untapped resource, and that is Trader Joe's.
Oh, there you go. Same
Oh, yeah. But here's the thing with Trader Joe's is the aisles are not deep enough to really spark a romance. It's like it's not a quick in and out because Trader Joe's has a lot and you usually are trying to, usually get something from every aisle if you're there to shop. But it doesn't have like the lengthy aisle where there can be more interaction.
Your best opportunity
probably at Trader Joe's might be with who's checking you out. You might have the most interaction because Trader Joe's people that work the cashiers,
some of the most chatty people you'll ever meet.
They are. Wow. They make your day.
That scares me. Could be a 75-year-old man or it could be a 23-year-old woman, and they're going to chat you up just the same. Probably the best spot there.
Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
Chick-fil-A. Yes. Everybody's always happy at Chick-fil-A.
Really chatty. Have you noticed
Trader Joe's as well.
Scooters is very chatty now. Like when you pull up and to get your coffee.
Yeah, that's not good at 5 a.m.
Well,
Don't talk to me.
They're like, so how's your day? Well, you're right. Because the last time I went to the drive-thru is the one down there. She said, how's your day? I'm like, it's 5:30.
The other day
I haven't started it
I
yet.
woke up.
Yeah.
Do you have big plans for the day?
This is it. Yeah.
I'm here.
They always say that though. Oh, big plans for the day. And so I know that they have to
roofie my coffee and let's find out.
They're encouraged to engage in conversation. But I think after the response of the very first question, if you are working the Scooters drive-thru, you know exactly if you need to continue that conversation or not based on the response. Yeah, pretty good. Okay, I don't need to ask that person anything more unless you're like, oh, it's been really good. What are you up to today? Then you're going to have a conversation. Yeah, I don't get that. I don't need it. I'm sure most people don't need it, so I don't know why that's encouraged. But I've noticed that in the last couple of years of Scooters, they're very chatty when you get to the drive-thru.
Until at least 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
That's okay. They're probably.
I'm sure it's fine.
Their interaction was with people in a box.
No, they're in the caffeine business too. They're trying to add a little boost to it. I will tell you this in Trader Joe's, if you're going to go to the spot that you'd have your best opportunity to maybe start a conversation right when you walk in. That's the widest part but you have the produce is a little bit up ahead, but that's probably the widest aisle that you can actually get into and not feel like you're causing a traffic jam or anything. So just again, for all of you single people out there,
you're teaching this morning.
There's your spot. Oh, I'm very convinced on it. There's your spot.
I would say to stay away from the inappropriate stuff. I would avoid the produce in the meat section.
Yeah, I've never.
Because you might slip and say something you just ruin your chances.
Or the frozen food section. Tell them you can melt all this stuff.
All right, welcome in everybody. We are off and running on a Friday on Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Jimmy here as well. The lineup is brought to you by the Roofers at John Higgins Weather Guard. Mike Schaefer is back in. Not sure if he had another kid or not, but he seems to have a lot of time off. He will join us coming up at 9 o'clock.
He was on a boat, I heard.
With the kid?
I don't know if Hudson was on there or not. But I know he's on a boat. He was boating.
Living his best life.
With Dion?
Never did I think when Mike Schaefer first joined the show as a guest, he'd be married and have a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And God bless him. Got a great wife and a wonderful son.
Hanging around him in Columbus the many times that we did, I didn't think that either. He probably thought the same thing about me too. So it works both ways.
He's on the list of people I shed a tear when they turned in their single and mingle card. And then all of a sudden they grew up and you're like, does she know that you were like, yeah.
Yeah.
He will join us coming up at 9. Big, huge day for our guest at 9:20. Matt Verzal will stop by. Can't wait for that chat. The lineup brought to you by the Rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard. So not only do we have a large warehouse opening up in Omaha, which people will lose their mind over the weekend. Hopefully you don't pass out due to heat exhaustion because the heat index is going through the roof.
A little warm.
It is also on this 12th of July, and why I say polarizing is this is a really, really good, first of all, food town.
True.
We might be swim town, but we're also food town. We're a very underrated food community. And it's not just sucking up to Sarah Baker Hansen and her appearances on the show, but we're a good food town, and we have a lot of different options.
Yeah.
It is a day today that I think in this town, because there are plenty of options and there are plenty of opinions, some of them are wrong. Today is National French Fry Day.
Mm-hmm.
Omaha is a good French fry town, and we have a lot of debates about food, and especially on this radio station, we have terrible takes on food. According to some, not internally, we never look at each other and go, that's a terrible food take. You all do that towards us. You got to understand, we're bonded together in our bad food takes. You're not going to make us cry, okay, or change our bad food takes. But I've noticed when it comes to the French fry in Omaha, Nebraska, it is you have loyalty to a place and you will die on that hill.
Yep.
About that is the best fry. And then also the kind of fry that you want.
Oh, people get pissy over that.
Yeah, this is an aggressive French fry town, in my opinion.
And even at the Zone, they get pissy at each other over fries.
Oh, I've been called trash before because because in this actual French fry.
You?
They've called me worse.
Just because
than
you
that.
didn't like chicken for breakfast.
They called me way worse than that.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Do we need to have a side session?
Love you, Mom. Dad too.
Whoa, wow. Dad's the bad guy here.
I remember saying,
just let it go through the pores.
You're with friends.
You've held on to stuff for 40 years. Just let it go.
I didn't even put this one in my top 3, but I remember saying that I gave Don and Millie's a honorable mention, and well, maybe they didn't call me trash. I said I had a trash take. That is a absolute trash take on French fries, and maybe, but now since I went to Don and Millie's not that long ago, the fries have taken a bit of a hit. At least it was a bad Friday that I went.
Yeah,
I see what you did there.
Mm-hmm. But historically, Don and Millie's wouldn't be in my top 3, but they get an honorable mention. And someone just thought I was puffing on the Chiba. Like they said that's an absolute trash take. Not even garbage. They went to trash. I feel like if you say something about garbage, it's bad enough. But when you say trash, I take that personally. I really do.
I've been to Don and Millie's, but I've never eaten there.
Oh, you've done the long necks or the margaritas?
Bro, you're driving down the road and it says 99-cent margaritas.
Right.
My car, I need that place.
So
I need fuel.
We used to pregame there.
I've only been there to drink.
We would pregame there.
So don't judge me, okay? Please don't judge me. The food looks really good.
It's very good. Great burgers.
But I was just interested in
Frenchie.
I was just interested in taking a 5 in there and getting a few margs.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to know, is it still 99-cent margaritas there or dollar long necks? Because that was the thing when we would go out to the bars, is we would pregame there. We would have a burger and then we actually wanted to be able to just belly up to the counter.
I thought I had a problem. You pregame before you went out?
Oh, we sure did. Yeah, we pregamed.
Wow. Yeah. I said no foreplay. I went right through it.
Mm.
You liked a little foreplay, huh?
Well, and get a little hunk of beef. Yes.
Wait, we still at Don and Millie's? Or
yes, we're still at Don and Millie's. Get a greasy burger, set the tone, and then while you're at it, you're having a couple of beers.
I didn't know if that was code for something that I was not vibing with. When we're talking about
we're not going to a certain institution or anything, establishment. No, come on now.
How about those ESPYs last night?
Were those on?
They were on. They had some issues, but they also had one of the great moments that I will mention a little bit later. But in this town, everybody kind of
$1.39.
Okay, well, that's still really good. $1.39. Long necks or margs?
Margs.
Okay.
Long nets are just beer hard seltzer. $3.19.
They went up 40 cents.
Oh, yeah. The beer went up, but still for the margarita, they got the machine right there.
Friggin' COVID.
Yeah.
It's
still really good.
But a mini corn dog meal for $5.99.
But a lot of people like the kind of fry, the place they get their fry.
Mm-hmm.
I used to live in a place in Wheeling, West Virginia, TJ's Sports Garden, and I think this is a West Virginia, Western PA thing where they put French fries in the salad.
Oh,
yeah, you can
makes sense.
So TJ's Sports Garden, which is a really good sports bar, they have a steak salad, and it will always come with fries. They put fries on the top of the steak salad.
What kind of fries are we talking? Like thinner ones?
Steak fries.
They're the steak fries.
Yeah,
in the salad.
The first time I saw it, I was like, and I made this mistake, and I'm like exposed myself of not being a West Virginian.
Yeah,
I was like, I think this is, and people are like, no, That's a custom.
Yeah, that's health.
And I was like, you put in a steak salad, you put French fries, and then I became kind of addicted to it.
So it was good.
So
does this look like South Beach, sir?
So when I moved back to Omaha, and I
did you ask? Please tell me you asked for fries on a salad.
No, I did not. I did not. So there's two concepts in this town that it took me a while to wrap my arms around. Like, you go to a restaurant and you have the combo platter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a big fan of restaurants that have less stuff on the menu.
Yes.
Instead of
like my cousin Vinny
throwing the Cheesecake Factory at you and they throw you a book.
Yes. Or cheddars.
So it took me a bit to get used to Mexican food and pizza.
Oh.
Yeah. La Mesa. So I didn't understand the combo there. And then and shout out the OG owners of La Mesa are huge 1620 The Zone fans. I went there one day for lunch and the guy came up and introduced himself. And so I got to ask you a question. So I resolved that. But then and I love their pizza. I didn't get the Lighthouse pizza with fries.
Yeah,
but
I still really don't.
But I mean, they don't go together.
Yeah,
but you got the pizza and you got the fries, and the fries are extremely popular.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not a combo I want in my stomach. I want the straight pizza. I don't want to mix it with the fries. It's weird to me. But the fries are extremely popular at Lighthouse when they are paired. People will buy a large pie and they will get garlic fries, and I'm like, okay, I never thought about that. Probably never will do it. So those are like two concepts, one with the fries on National Friday, that I took me a while to, get around to going, oh, okay, I get it.
The pizza and fry thing, I'm still not 100% used to that. Now, I will say, this is right in your neck of the woods too, over at Backlot with their Detroit style pizza, but then they also have the OG fries, or you can get their specialty fries.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily you get the pizza and the fries, that's just a given that you got to order the fries with it. It's just something that they happen to offer on their menu, and they just so happen to be very, very good, those OG fries. So you get them anyway, but that's more of your choice of, let's get that while we're waiting for our pizza. And then by the time the pizza comes, you still are eating those fries. So then it does become a combination. It's an odd combination, but if the fries are done right, and I would say the OG fries are far better than the Lighthouse fries. I'm okay with it, but if it's something that is paired, like it's part of your order, to me that is still very unique to the point that I don't care for it.
So enjoy any specials that are out there. And I don't know that you can have a debate and rank fries. You have to separate the locals from the fast food. Like McDonald's fries are always going to rank really high.
Mm-hmm.
But would like Broncos has fresh fries every day, would they be in the mix to be one of the top fries in Omaha?
Yes,
they're kind of considered
I think they
fast
would
food,
be.
I guess.
And there's a good amount of grease, which I think always ups your ranking.
Grease is good for you.
Yes, it is. Well,
no, it's good. Are you happy when you eat it?
Yeah.
Then mental health is important.
Right. Are you happy when you get a piece of pizza and it's just filled with grease?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, my gosh.
You don't dab?
Do I dab? No. Although, no, actually, I take that back.
Hey.
I had a pool of grease in a pepperoni when I went to New York one time.
I'm a dabber.
I did dab
I'm a dabber.
in New York. I dabbed in New York. I didn't dab. I dabbed.
I
dabbed in New York. But yes, there was like pretty large pepperonis, and there was pools of grease in the pepperoni. So I was forced to dab, because if I would have picked that thing up, it was going to go all over me.
Here's another one that there's sandwiches that are paired with fries. And I've heard this. I've never been there, but this has come from a couple of people. And on Twitter, Penn Station.
Amazing.
Has really good fries.
Yes,
I've heard that from multiple people.
They are great. They're the fresh cut fries. You can see where the bin is of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very, very good. Sandwiches are pretty good too, but yes, the fresh cut fries there are very, very good.
All right, so truffle your way to National Friday. You can always join the I think that's Nick.
I bet. Do you think that's why they did that?
I think that's why National Friday is on a Friday.
Can't have that on a Wednesday. Come on.
Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope somebody that's listening goes into their favorite place today and go, it's Friday. Large, no salt, please. You can always join the conversation on the 42 Degree The Source hotline, 402-951-1620. That's the way to get in touch with us. John Butler is official. We'll discuss, now that it's official, what the next step is. And I think I have a question about Matt Rule and his hiring that goes back a couple of years as I was sifting through some thoughts on the new defensive back coach for Nebraska that we will share. We'll share a lot of discussion with y'all, whether it be the 42 Degree The Source hotline, 402-951-1620, or in the Equitable Bank inbox. Doug looks like a big Fry guy.
Oh, I'm sure he's got an opinion or two.
Yeah. And he's probably not just a chain guy. He's not like, Five Guys.
Oh, no, he's local.
He's like, yeah.
He's a local.
You know what? I'll go to Crescent Moon for the garlic fries.
There you go.
You can go there for the best banking. Equitable Bank sponsors our inbox where they take banking personally. And they probably will, all be out at noon today to go to lunch.
The banking truck.
Gary at 1620thezone.com.
Handley at 1620thezone.com.
Also on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at Gary Sharp 1620.
At Nick Handley 1620.
And we got another vote for a banger in Elkhorn. I've not had the fries. I've had everything else, I think, except the fries. Dairy Check.
Oh, still haven't been there yet.
Did we get the fries?
Hey, by the way, they've added more tables, so you have more room to sit outside, and they paved it.
Oh yeah, it's a nice little area there.
Is there a time to go when there's less people?
Yes.
10 a.m.
I don't know.
Right after we're done.
We did that.
We're now summertime.
When you sold me on the burger, I needed to try it. We did go out there and we tried the burger.
Oh, you sent the picture.
I did, and that was noon.
And
there was hardly anybody there.
Really?
Yeah, it was great.
I went recently about about 2:30 on a Friday, and
see that would be
there
good,
was a line. I mean,
on a Friday, especially as you get in the afternoon.
But I will tell you this: as long as it's not 100 degrees outside and you don't fear for your safety of just collapsing in line, it's worth it to stand in line.
And it goes.
Some of us are
fast.
raising this stuff. It'll be
they got a nice, well-oiled machine as far as getting your food out quickly too. Don't let that line intimidate you.
I will. Thank you, tweeter. I will put that on my list of fries. Also, we have more from the college football world, and all of us Nebraska basketball season ticket holders. Let's discuss what our non-con schedule looks like.
Excited.
123 games last year.
Maybe you get a chance to go. Maybe part of your season.
23 games last year. You going to get excited for a home game outside of that lone one in December until January?
Maybe part of the season ticket holding package is you get to go to the Hawaii thing too.
Yeah, and they play nobody there either.
But still, it's Hawaii. If they're not playing anybody, you might as well be able to go to Hawaii.
It's Christmas.
That's true. It's Hawaii.
It was nice, though, that one of the lingering impacts of Scott Frost with the Nebraska men's basketball team is when Bethune-Cookman came here, they scheduled a home and home.
Yes, they did.
In a different sport. Fred didn't know about it.
He didn't.
Next thing he knows, the 24-25 non-con has Bethune-Cookman.
Troy Dannon came knocking on the door like, hey, by the way, this is the year we got to return that one.
Will they bring
the football team?
Will they bring their band?
Yes, that was. Everybody was losing their mind about the band is going to be amazing.
Nobody wanted to talk about the game.
Nope.
Everybody wanted to talk. Is Bethune-Cookman bringing their band?
Yeah, I was one of them.
That's when you know. I mean, from a football standpoint,
it's also a gorgeous day that day.
Jesus, it wasn't. What was that movie with the cheerleaders? Where everybody showed up for the cheerleaders because the football team was so bad, but the cheerleaders were so good.
Wildcats?
That was Bethune-Cookman. No, it's a cheerleading movie. Bring it on. Yeah.
Hey, A+ anytime we can get a Wildcats reference on a sports
show.
UGLY.
We can get some Philip Finch mentioned, but
Finch was ahead of his time if you're running 13.
I don't think he was in that movie, but a Nebraska athlete, I think, is morphing into him.
Into Philip Finch?
Uh-oh. Not Philip Finch. No.
Okay.
But I don't.
Well, it depends what position.
Cuba Gooding Jr. wasn't in that movie, was he?
No, he wasn't.
No.
Okay.
Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson were.
Yes.
I did not confuse them.
And Goldie Hawn.
Yeah.
See, I didn't even go there.
I didn't go anywhere.
I didn't even think about any of that stuff. I didn't go anywhere.
I just was trying to remember if a young Cuba Gooding Jr. was in it, or was that just actually Bryce McGowan's?
Oh, that.
We're off and running on a Friday. Lots to discuss. John Butler is official. What did Matt Rule do? We'll talk about that when we come back. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley.
News Talk 1290 Coil is your radio home for Omaha Storm Chasers baseball, proud AAA affiliate of the Kansas City Royals. Tune in to hear every pitch, every hit, and every out as the Chasers play at Warner Park and across the International League in 2024. With the voice of the Omaha Storm Chasers, Nick Batters, on News Talk 1290 Coil.
The Storm Chasers host Toledo tonight at Warner Park. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05. You can hear all the action on your home for the Storm Chasers 1290 Coil.
Don't miss this week's Zone Deal.
This week's half-off deal is Kops. Receive 2 $25 gift vouchers for just $25. Kops makes delicious pizza, fresh salads, and tasty charred wings. For the basic menu, click copspizza.com. And for the extended menu, visit them at Shadow Lake Town Center, 180th and Center, and the newly reopened 72nd and Jones locations.
Zone deals go fast. 9 a.m. Friday, 1620thezone.com.
It's time to roll out the red carpet for, well, new carpet. There's no better time than right now at the Home Depot, where the more you buy, the more you save. Save up to 10% on select special order carpet styles you love from brands you trust. And installation is included on qualifying purchases. Start your carpet project today at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Offer valid July 11th through July 28th, 2024. Receive up to 10% off select special order carpet purchases. Minimum purchase required. Exclusions apply. For licenses, see homedepot.com/license numbers.
When it comes to protecting your home, Jay Stennett Contracting takes pride in ensuring every detail is handled. Roofing, siding, gutters. When it comes to the exterior of your home, Jay Stennett Contracting has you covered. Water, wind, and hail can wreak havoc on the exterior of your home. If your home is damaged, let Jay Stennett Contracting come out for a no-obligation inspection. If repairs are needed, they will help you through every step of the process. When you need an honest assessment, Jay Stennett Contracting has you covered. JSCRestoration.com.
If you're a licensed real estate agent in Nebraska or Iowa looking to take your career to the next level, Modern Real Estate is seeking outgoing, high-energy individuals to join the team. Whether you prefer a salary-based, commission-based, or hybrid compensation structure, they have options to fit your needs. With leads provided, you can focus on what you do best, closing deals and achieving success. Don't miss out on this exciting opportunity to work with a dynamic and innovative company. Email your real estate experience to Tyler@modernrealestateco.com and start building your future with Modern Real Estate today.
Velocity Clinical Research in Omaha conducts clinical trials for investigational treatments and research. Typical studies involve medications for high cholesterol, diabetes, infectious diseases, and acne. Some current studies include low T, RSV, fall influenza, pediatric obesity ages 12 to 17, adult obesity, and asthma. Velocity also performs vaccine studies. Studies are medically supervised and do not require insurance. Velocity recognizes your time is valuable, so they offer compensation for study-related time and travel. Find out more at velocityclinicaltrials.com.
When it comes to concrete repair, Everlevel has some serious game. Coach Greg McDermott here to coach you on why you should choose Everlevel Concrete Repair. They've got the fundamentals to fix your cracked and uneven concrete, and their products will give you the best defense against future damage. It's a fraction of the price compared to replacement, and their solutions come with a long-term transferable warranty. Working with Everlevel is a slam dunk. Call Everlevel Concrete Repair today for your free inspection.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
All right, rolling through Friday on the 12th of July. Welcome back in. There's Jimmy. He'll have an update after the top of the hour. President Putin. I'm Gary Sharp. Oh, excuse me.
I missed that last night.
Nick Handley. Sorry.
What?
Sorry.
What the hell, man? Jeez. Putin?
Hey, as you get older, you have
Mix up
slips.
names.
You have slips.
I mean, couldn't you slip with somebody else that's not as notorious? My God.
Hold on. 1 second. No. Okay. Maybe go back and look at it, and then that'll make sense.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Didn't mean to drop some politics on you there.
He said we'll rally around Kurt Warner. We will play good football.
I think that was a little biased comment you just made there.
What? I love Dick Vermeil.
Quick question here on National French Fry Day. Do you drizzle ketchup over your fries? Dip them in ketchup or no ketchup at all? Are you a drizzler, a dipper, or a knower?
Okay, so this is a great question because, first of all, if you drizzle, who are you? Seriously, who are you if you drizzle?
Kids drizzle.
You don't like the squirting?
Into a glob that will
It's
actually
usually
be the
how it
one I dip
squirts.
into, but I don't drizzle
Okay.
over fries.
All right.
I think the sign, it's almost like growing up when I had to make the transition from actually putting steak sauce in my steak because I didn't realize the quality of steak, you don't need steak sauce. I think the quality of French fry, if you got a great French fry, you don't need anything. It's just that good. Now, one of the great things about a fry, though, is does anything taste better dipping? I'll tell you that, Jimmy. And unfortunately, I brought this up not that long ago. Unfortunately, the place no longer exists, but Growler USA had these sidewinders. You didn't need anything on them. They were amazing.
I ate
Standalone,
your
they were so
potato
good.
cakes the other day for the first time.
Those are good. First time?
Yeah. Because he usually always got the curly fries, which was a part of a big argument here. Curly fries or crinkle fries.
Were they super greasy?
Oh, of course.
Good. Good.
Heat index 110 on Sunday, 109 on Monday.
Roof will be closed.
Won't ruin my Friday, though. My Friday. So I would be if I dip, typically, actually, I'd like to dip in ranch as opposed to ketchup. I'm more of a ranch guy. But if the fry is very good, and there's a couple, I would say you don't need anything.
Okay. I'm not, I'm
drizzling is just weird. I don't get the drizzling
I think if
thing.
some people are home and you have the bottle, you might drizzle. Some people are not comfortable with the execution of a packet.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. True. Because then
but if you
open a bunch,
you go to a place that you're able to put ketchup in a little container, you might be more of a dipper.
Oh, okay. Yeah. By the way, I saw what you were talking about.
It happens. Yesterday, it became official that John Butler is the new defensive back coach, passing game coordinator. He's already hard at work, whether it be with current players or reaching out to recruits. And through this whole process, and the Matt Rule involvement in moving swiftly, having a plan, maybe thinking this could potentially happen if we lose a guy, and especially at this time of the year. He had a guy, and this moved swiftly. I mean, it was less than a week. You have a assistant coach in a forced resignation, and then you hire a guy. Availability is everything, but you hire a guy that probably in terms of veteranism, which is a new word I just made up, it is an upgrade. I think the institutional knowledge is something that you can't replace, and that'll be a work in progress. But the Matt Rule component in all this, and I would love to get to the bottom line and look all this up and ask the people that were involved. When Trev was vetting and discussing the Nebraska football job with Matt Rule, how many X's and O's type questions or conversations were had compared to how would you run a football program with worst case scenarios from a CEO mindset? Because Matt Rule, I think a good football coach, but I think in our short amount of time with him, he's probably shown more CEO capabilities than, oh man, he's a good exit.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy that put together a staff that knows how to manage a staff and has to manage a message and manage a roster that was it more of a CEO discussion than an X's and O's discussion when they were first meeting and you're hanging out in your house before you get the job a month later.
I think you're spot on with that point. I think it's what we have seen because given I'm not going to put this all on Scott Frost's tab, but just in the overall climate in college football where you are dealing with adverse situations when it comes to you have that many guys on your roster, you can't always keep tabs on 125 plus guys or anything that could negatively reflect on your football program or coaching staff that sometimes things happen that you need to be able to pivot and do so in a professional manner, but also in a manner that is going to keep things moving forward. So I think a lot of it probably had to do with it. And okay, so we'll use some of the things with the previous coaching staff as an example for, using of the analyst, and then having the NCAA minor sanctions coming your way. That was something we still talk about. It was very awkward when Trev had to march Scott up there to address the media after that. I think those things, as embarrassing as that had to be for Scott Frost, I think are very embarrassing to Trev Alberts. You know him on so many different levels too. I knew him when he was at Omaha as well, as far as the things that he, I think, takes very seriously when it comes to the reputation of his athletic department and the programs that are the face of the athletic department.
I don't know what was more embarrassing, being marched up there to talk to the media, or essentially in your last year at Nebraska, where you know that your boss didn't want you there. He put you in the corner and he said, you still got the title, but you're going to stand in the corner and try and not impact your football program as much as possible.
I think you know the answer to that because we saw it at Big Ten Media Days.
Or as at least as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what Trev did when he said, I want you to be a CEO. He said, I know you can't handle this, but I can't get rid of you. I can't have you impact in the football program. Go stand in the corner. Okay. You still get to have the title and you get the salary and all that kind of stuff, but you got to be in the corner.
And okay,
and that's what happened. So that's what I'm thinking of, scenarios that have popped up here over, 15, 16, or a little bit longer than that, months, is the CEO role is a strength. The football acumen is a strength, but the CEO stuff has been more noticeable, I think would be the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And now you go from the 2024 season probably is where the coaching chops, the straight coaching chops of X's and O's, management in game, all of that stuff needs to start to show up.
Yeah, because this is where what the most important thing in a first-year coach, I think for any coach, I don't care if you have a reputation of being this great offensive play caller or this, absolute badass defensive mind on the other side of the football, that I think the most successful coaches that come into, especially places like Nebraska, where it means so much to the fan base, but there's so many eyeballs, there's so much access, and everybody wants to know every little detail, even outside of the season, that it does take a very unique personality that you can establish that culture, you can establish the message, you can show, even in the early part of your tenure, the execution of all that. So when you do get in front of a microphone and you are addressing, whether it's during a game week or you're just addressing the state of the program in the off season, that your words actually mean something. If you can establish that in the first year and you have a little bit to follow that when it comes to play and development on the field, 100%, I think that's one of the most important things that probably doesn't get talked about as much. And then you're right. This is where you lean on your staff, because we've talked about this before. Sideline moments during games, late game situations, we know that's something that needs to improve. But also, if anybody looks at Matt Rule and says, he's a really good play caller, or he's, what would you say is his overall strength as a coach during games? I would think what you just said a little bit ago. You've surrounded yourself with people that you trust. You're communicating with them. You have input on what you want to see both offensively and defensively. But when the final play is being called in, or the actual execution of something, that's because you're leaning on those coordinators, assistants, and the players that you have.
His strength might be managing more of the roster than his staff.
I think that's fair, yeah.
I mean, he's got some behind-the-scenes people that have just kind of just gone away. He has 2 assistants that he's lost. None of them are his fault. But I think his strength is, and you have to know when you hire a coach, you have to know what your program needs. And they needed somebody that understood players. And I think his best attribute, maybe initially, is more managing a roster over managing the staff. I'm not saying that, not managing the staff at all, but managing the roster has probably been a greater strength, and exactly what Nebraska needed.
Yes.
At the time.
Yeah. I think from the coaching staff standpoint, I think you are, based on words and I think examples that will come, is you are promoting an environment that if you work your tail off for me, I'm going to work my tail off for you on what you want to accomplish as a coach, whether your aspirations are being a head coach or coordinator, or moving up from an analyst to possibly a job within the University of Nebraska. Whatever it is, he's promoting an environment of being able to As long as you work hard for me, I'm going to work hard for you. I'm going to promote you. I'm going to talk highly of you. We'll get you to where you want to be. I think that is exactly the same thing to your point about the roster, though, too. That there's an expectation, there's accountability. It's very consistent as far as that accountability. It's not, well, this player gets a pass because he can do this as opposed to this player. I think all across the board, it's very consistent. I think we've talked about this also before, that you're at that age between 18 and 21, 22 years old, that you can see through what's authentic and not. And I think that in his short time, he has been able to drive that message home. And then this is where I think the staff does come in, but I think it starts with Matt Rule, that ability to identify talent, whether it's marquee talent, whether you can get that guy or not, or that potential of there's something there, let's get them over to our program and let's develop and coach the crap out of them. And then we'll see what we have in 2 years with that player. And I think it works on two levels, but I would agree that his ability to communicate with the roster in an authentic manner with the follow through, I think, is a huge strength for Matt Rule.
Yeah, the institutional knowledge, John Butler can't get that. Football is football to me. He's going to recruit to a brand. From what you understand, you hear from media that covered him in Buffalo or his players, very personable. One of his biggest strengths in taking over that room is a guy named Isaac Gifford.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy named Isaac Gifford. That's one of the strengths that John Butler will have in taking over the defensive back room a month before they hit the field for camp. All right, Jimmy's got an update coming up next. We got more because Kyle McCord has entered the conversation. Almost caught a major stray on Hard Knocks the other night, and Nebraska caught a break. That's what I'll say to that. Plus, again, we will discuss also yesterday, my guy almost threw a no-hitter.
Your guy.
My guy.
Your guy.
My guy.
I mean, he technically did.
My guy. He's just like my Kerry Wood.
Oh.
I had Kerry Wood back in the day. Now I got my Paul Skeens.
He's great.
The Pirates don't do a lot of things well. What they did yesterday, they did well.
Mm-hmm.
We will get into that when we come back. Hour number 2. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roof and Time Saving Traffic Center. Hope you're having a good start to your feel-good Friday morning in the Omaha Metro. There's no accidents or delays to report. One thing you want to keep in mind over on westbound Dodge, the left 2 lanes are closed just past 90th due to utility work. It will cause delays later in the day, just something to keep in mind. Other than that, traffic flow is smooth sailing. I'll keep you updated throughout the rest of the morning once traffic starts picking up. Be sure to buckle up and drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
We're excited to announce the grand opening of Saul's Jewelry and Loan's new downtown location. It's a Saul's shopping experience like you've never seen. Amazing jewelry finds at our famous best-in-town prices. Tools, bikes, guitars. 22nd and Hardy, downtown Omaha, Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
Hurry in for amazing financing this weekend only at NFM. Our huge in-stock selection has everything you need at low prices to refresh every room in your home. Find incredible financing on furniture, flooring, appliances, electronics, and more. For the first time this year, use 30-month financing on qualifying purchases. Make those updates you've been waiting on without breaking the bank. Don't miss out on huge store-wide financing happening just this weekend only at NFM. Minimum monthly payments required. 18% APR. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Join the Omaha Storm Chasers at Werner Park every Saturday for Bands and Brews, presented by J&M Displays and Werner Enterprises. Find details on each Saturday's Bands and Brews at omahastormchasers.com.
Everyone get on your feet, stir up the storm, we're family.
It's time to roll out the red carpet for, well, new carpet. There's no better time than right now at the Home Depot, where the more you buy, the more you save. Save up to 10% on select special order carpet styles you love from brands you trust. And installation is included on qualifying purchases. Start your carpet project today at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Offer valid July 11th through July 28th, 2024. Receive up to 10% off select special order carpet purchases. Minimum purchase required. Exclusions apply. For licenses, see homedepot.com/license numbers.
When it comes to protecting your home, Jay Stennett Contracting takes pride in ensuring every detail is handled. Roofing, siding, gutters. When it comes to the exterior of your home, Jay Stennett Contracting has you covered. Water, wind, and hail can wreak havoc on the exterior of your home. If your home is damaged, let Jay Stennett Contracting come out for a no-obligation inspection. If repairs are needed, they will help you through every step of the process. When you need an honest assessment, Jay Stennett Contracting has you covered. JSCRestoration.com.
This is Protection. Yep, Protection. The everyday skin protection ritual that protects your skin from mosquitoes. Pre-barbecue. Pre-playground. Pre-everything. Pre-every day. Prevention is the best protection. This summer, make sure you have OFF, the #1 dermatologist-recommended repellent brand. SC Johnson, a family company.
Email us on the Equitable Bank inbox with whatever is on your mind. Zone Inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. You can get me, Gary, at 1620thezone.com. We want to hear from you on the Equitable Bank Zone Inbox.
Our lives only have so much time. But if you smoke, you have less. Your life could be 10 years shorter. And the time you do have is often filled with health problems. Shortness of breath, asthma, COPD, and cancer. But the minute you quit, your body starts healing.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no service fees. Shop ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
We're still having fun. We picked up right where we left off yesterday. I love it. Positive Friday. Happy. All right. Before I drop an F-bomb. 7 Husker football standouts in a State College All-American, not State College, comprise the 2024 class of the Nebraska Football Hall of Fame. There are a lot of dudes on there. The 2024 inductees were chosen by members of the Hall of Fame, so by your peers, essentially. The Hall of Fame class will officially be inducted on September 13th in Lincoln, recognized following evening the Huskers' home game against most hated rival Northern Iowa. The 6 former Huskers selected to this class include, from the 80s, Kevin Leitner, Tyrone Bird, Terrell Farley, who we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
Chris Kelsey, Jared Crick, Rex Burkhead. Not much more needs to be said.
It's a pretty good class.
See, dude. Yep. The Hall of Fame board also selected former Husker defensive lineman Monty Johnson from the Legends category. Also a dude, by the way. You know your NFL history.
Yeah. Monty Johnson.
Super Bowl champion.
Well, okay. So did you ever interview him?
No.
If there was a guy that looked like he should play for a certain NFL team, it was Monty Johnson.
Yeah. Even when you would see the interviews years later, it's like, that's a Raider.
Super Bowl champion with the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, tough as nails. The state college representative in the class is Mike Miller, an All-American running back at UNK in the early 2000s. Probably went to some of the same haunts as Nick went to.
Oh, definitely. He was at the Learjet Club. Hell yeah.
2 matchups against perennial NCAA tournament teams, and the program's first appearance in the Diamond Classic highlight the Nebraska ball non-conference schedule. Coming off their NCAA tournament season, they will play in Hawaii over Christmas against a murderer's row that includes Charlotte, College of Charleston, Hawaii, Loyola Chicago, Murray State, Oakland, and Oregon State. Bracket will be announced later this summer. And in baseball, Paul Skeen struck out 11, 7 no-hit innings, another dominant performance. Made Pirate fans remember the great Doug Drabeck as the Pirates beat the Brewers 1-0. Skeen threw 99 pitches in his 11th Major League start, 65 for strikes. The all-star right-hander walked 1 while lowering his ERA to 1.90. Colin Holderman replaced Skeens and surrendered the leadoff single, way to go, dude, to Jake Bowers for Milwaukee's first hit. The Brewers loaded the bases with 2 down in the 8th, but Holderman escaped the jam, and Bob Walk got the save. No, never mind. Aroldis Chapman handled the 9th for his 4th save, finishing a 2-hitter for the Battling Buccos. They almost had a no-hitter since a combined no-hitter in 1997 against the Houston Astros at Three Rivers Stadium. It was a Saturday night. 2 dudes combined for a no-hitter. It was embarrassing, but the Astros won the division anyway. That year it was called Comedy Central because they only won like 84 games. All right, finally, Bill Belichick has added a second media job for the upcoming season. No, we're not going to start a show with him on the Zone. The CW Network, I didn't know this was on there, announced yesterday that Belichick will be one of the analysts on Inside the NFL, the show the pros watch. Used to remember. Len, Nick, they're both dead now. Rest in peace. They were awesome. Chris is still with us. Chris was good too. That was one of the young Chris Collinsworth. Belichick, who, by the way, if you don't remember, he coached the Patriots to 6 Super Bowl titles in his 24 years, will also appear on the Manning Cast this season. That'll be fun. He also joined the McAfee show to, I don't know, whatever, for its draft coverage in April, and is scheduled to appear weekly on the show during the NFL season to be asked questions about Aaron Rodgers. Belichick joins Ryan Clark, Chad Johnson, and Chris Long. I'm guessing these are the guys in Inside the NFL now. Not bad. Each played one season for Belichick in New England. When asked for comment, Belichick replied in a very monotone voice that he was on to San Diego. Aren't we all?
So if I'm not mistaken, the current Inside the NFL lineup is Ryan Clark hosting, but you even have one Jay Cutler that is part of the hosting as well.
Is he enjoying a lung dart when he's on? Early 70s, like the Carson show?
It wasn't necessarily his career, but it's more of his reality show with his now ex-wife.
He has a Yorkie, right?
And Kristen Cavallari. I don't know.
Or he did. Yorkie's probably dead now, but
I just remember he was actually really, really funny on that show. He in his smart ass way, but he was actually very funny. And I think he's
made him
now
likable.
He morphed that into a hosting career. Because remember, he was going to be on the Fox broadcast until he ended up taking a 1 or 2 year deal with the Miami Dolphins.
Probably.
So now you're adding Bill Belichick to the mix of that. And Chad Johnson's still on there too?
I didn't know he was on there to begin with.
Yeah, I think Chad Johnson, Chris Long is an analyst. I mean, they got a host of people. Now you're adding Bill Belichick to that?
They have the Pac-2, the ACC. I'm going to start watching some CW.
I also saw
they still have Buffy?
Fox because of they have to move Brady and Olsen. Kevin's got a new partner, Moose. Cougs and Moose are going to be one of the Fox pairings this season.
Far better than Mark Sanchez.
Really? I think Mark Sanchez got moved up.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's what they would call the number 3 crew.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly that. Kevin will go for 1,500 yards rushing and 20 touchdowns this season.
Kugler
leading the way.
Kugler did a great job, in my opinion, despite Mark Sanchez. The Sanchez, as an analyst compared to the guys that they have, not their strongest.
I'll tell you, you know why he did a good job with him? Because Mark Sanchez is quirky.
Yeah,
and
that's
he's
true.
not the, put you in a box what an analyst is supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
They
a
have
little bit
fun.
quirky. You know what helps when you're a play-by-play guy to handle those kind of analysts? Being a sports talk radio host.
Actually, you're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Because, we don't ever have a normal job here. It's like all over the place, and you're the juggling balls up in the air.
Yeah. No, you're right.
So I like that pairing. That'll be an interesting pairing to follow throughout the year. Thanks, Jimmy. Back to Tyrone Bird. So there are certain guys in the history of Nebraska football, because this is going to lead us into a sad day yesterday in the Husker football family.
Mm-hmm.
But Tyrone Bird probably flies under the radar a little bit. He beat out Marvin Sanders to become a full-time starter. And Tyrone, who broke his back, he had a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really good guy. He was a hell of a player. I think, I haven't looked recently. I still think he is third all-time in tackles at defensive back at Nebraska, behind one of the greatest players ever to play at Nebraska, Mike Brown, Daniel Bullocks, and then I think Tyrone Bird is third. But I don't know if there's a list out there, and I don't have time to research it. I don't know if you guys know. Tyrone Bird is on a small list of players at Nebraska that had a black shirt all 4 years.
At a time where, wow.
So there's certain things you remember.
Yeah.
A freshman.
Yeah,
starting on the
he was
offensive line
a 4. You're right. He was a 4-year starter.
Yeah, no, that's why he had a black shirt. For all 4
you're
years.
right. You're right.
So there's just quirky things of a true freshman starting the offensive line. His name's Will Shields. Tyrone Bird was a black shirt for all 4 years, and I don't know how many people are on that list, but he's one of those guys when you're rattling off, and you go, "Oh yeah." Wore 8, right?
Yeah.
Before Tyrone Williams wore 8.
Right.
Tyrone Bird came on this radio station one time and said, we were talking about the transition from when he was at Nebraska and right before it took off. And he said, plain and simple, Tommy Frazier. Said Tommy Frazier walked on campus, and for the first time, Nebraska had a quarterback that we could all trust.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Yeah, Tyrone Bird was a dude, but all 4 years he was a black shirt. I don't know.
Yeah.
We need some help from our researchers out there. I don't know how many people are on that list.
There are just memorable players. So in my lifetime, and when I started really paying attention and getting into Nebraska football, everything from, the Turner Gill, the 84 team, I was 5. Okay. But I remember Steve Taylor run the option very, very well. I remember the Weebacks. That was always a lasting image. Johnny Mitchell. Tyrone Bird's one of those guys, though. And you're right. You always knew where he was in the field. Number 8, the dude he popped people all the time. And on every play that somehow got into the second level of the defense, he was typically making the tackle there too. But you're right. He's one of those guys when you talk about some really good safeties and you bring up Tyrone Bird, I think people, maybe if you were an older fan, maybe even a little bit older than me, if someone said, hey, tell me the best safeties that played in Nebraska or who you thought were the best safeties, I think Mike Brown is always going to be brought up.
Mike Brown's one of, I bring him up all you want. We can talk Mike Brown all day. Mike Brown's one of the greatest football players that's ever played at Nebraska.
100% he is. 100%
Agree
he is.
Completely.
Once
again.
But I think maybe our generation and older would say Tyrone Bird would probably be right up there. And then I think a younger generation that maybe was around when Tyrone Bird played, but they were, not comprehending, it's kind of that, like you said, it's that, 8. Oh yeah, he was good. But I don't think he's always top of mind. I don't know why that is. I think it's probably just a generational thing.
That's
but
what I think it is.
He's one of the dudes that I will always remember when I first started getting into Nebraska football. I could really comprehend that when I'm, around 9 or 10 years old.
You always hear his name.
Yeah, you hear his name and you saw him everywhere. Like he was just everywhere.
By the way, also, I got a little fired up about the 90 Nebraska-Colorado game. Do not ever ask Tyrone Bird, like if you're going to buy insurance from him, do not ever bring up the 89 Nebraska-Colorado game. He has a feeling or two on that. Or don't bring up the Florida State game in the Orange Bowl, which he had an interception, first quarter interception in that game.
I do remember that as well. Yeah.
I'm sure there are other games to bring up with him that will be a better story.
Yeah, that was when I saw the list yesterday come out. I actually thought he might had already been in the Nebraska Football Hall of Fame class. Like I was somewhat surprised that he wasn't in there already, because there's certain guys that, and this happens every now and then, because it spans throughout different chapters of Nebraska football, that you remember someone that was so significant to that defense during a time that their defense was pretty damn good and playing some big games, and he was right there in front of it. That I'm like, oh, okay, well, if he wasn't already, this is obviously very appropriate because he's Hall of Fame worthy for sure.
Exactly. When you're a dude among dudes, that's saying something.
Yeah.
Sean writes in, tweets at us at Gary Sharp 1620 at Nick Handley 1620. I had a Spanish class back in college with Tyrone Bird. It was him, Ed Stewart, and Tom Seiler. Bird was different, good dude, but just a shade goofy.
Yeah.
Your favorite memory of Tom Seiler? Go.
I don't have one. I remember Marvin Seiler from Iowa State. Tom Seiler was from
Las Vegas.
Was it Vegas?
Okay. It was a walk-on.
Okay. I was trying to think of, I thought there was someone. Yeah, I'm getting them confused now. There was someone from Columbus I thought we were talking about.
No, I think Tom's he's a math teacher. I think he's still living out in Vegas.
Oh, right.
8th grade social studies teacher with Mr. Seiler. Not Tom.
Yeah, now we're talking about the same game, so we're back to the Florida State game in the Orange Bowl. Is Tom Seiler does have there is a moment in that game where it was not a good moment for him, but he also has there's a famous picture of him walking off the field with his arm around Byron Bennett.
Okay. Yes. And let's see, we went to the 90 game yesterday. Now we're going to do that one too.
It's early though. You can still get to some of the other games.
No, not Byron Bennett had nothing in the 90 game. I'm talking about the Orange Bowl against Florida State.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said we're talking about the 90 game yesterday. It's going to bring up bad memories. Now we're talking about the 90. Well, I guess it would technically have been the 93 Orange Bowl for that year, and Bennett missed that kick. that still does get to people. You can talk about the refs all you want.
Got an email. Brian Washington, Monster back, 1984, 4 straight years starting at Monster. He still lives in Lincoln, and he played for the Browns and Jets.
I think he. God,
shout out Johnny D for the email.
Went on to play with the Jets. God, I haven't seen Brian. I used to see him a lot when I was living in Lincoln. Did he? This might be just talking to the wind. Do you know his background?
I do not know.
Okay. I think he was involved with the Valentinos, wasn't he? They married one of the sisters or not sisters, daughters.
I don't know.
Now I want to crush the buffet.
Okay, so there's two guys on the list of people that had a black shirt for all 4 years.
Yeah, I didn't know his backstory at all. So I'll take your word on that one.
When you think of Johnny Rodgers, what do you think of? What's the first thing when I say Johnny Rodgers? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Game of the century,
hanging out with us
punt
in
return.
Here.
The punt return against Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some might say Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
How many times do people go, oh, 2-time national champion?
That's up there. I mean, it's amongst it.
I mean, you say it.
I don't think I don't. Johnny walks in here and you go, there's the Jet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jet,
so the play,
Heisman, the play,
and Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, because you get the pose.
And
beloved every time he comes here.
A guy that hands out an award and puts on a banger of a show every April. But then further down the list is, he was part of a couple of national championship teams.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday, the great, and I mean, if you ever had a chance to interact with him, he was a fantastic person that loved Nebraska high school football, loved Lexington, loved Nebraska football.
Yeah.
Did not love how the transition from Devaney to Osborne went, but if you ever met Coach Monty Kiffin, he maybe would forget your name, but he would never forget the interaction. So by chance, if you interviewed him and you met him and then you saw him years later with Tampa, as he was running the Tampa 2 and winning a Super Bowl, he always recognized you. He was one of the nicest people that did not want to talk about the Buccaneers, didn't want to talk about his son. One of his sons, was back at Monty's alma mater as an assistant. He always wanted to talk about Nebraska and loved Nebraska. And he's a legend in the game of football at the college and pro level, and part of the Bob Devaney era that defense became a thing at the University of Nebraska. He passed away yesterday at the age of 84. And you can tell throughout the entire football world how much he meant to people. And I will go as far as to say this, and we can talk more about his impact at Nebraska, because he had a significant impact, but there's that part that I think he wanted to be the head coach at Nebraska. I think he should get more credit for winning the Super Bowl, or because the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl, than John Gruden.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think everybody would agree with that too.
And look at history. Mike Tomlin was one of his assistants. Worked
Mike
out pretty
Tomlin,
well for him. Shiano was part of
Greg
that staff. I don't know if
there's somebody else I'm forgetting on this one, but I know that for some reason, I get why, but when you think of the Tampa 2, everyone would talk about, Lovie Smith runs the Tampa 2. I mean, that was Monty Kiffin.
Mm-hmm.
And so
he's the father of it.
The whole part about Monty Kiffin, when Schmidt and I used to do a show, we had him on once, and it was one of the coolest interviews ever. And he sounds, just so old school.
He sounds like a defensive coordinator.
He does. He does. And it's funny because then we would talk to Charlie McBride, which I know he still does every Mondays. But yeah, just extreme. That was the thing that I didn't realize when talking to him, how much, because you got to remember, when I was watching Nebraska football, Monty Kiffin was not the defensive coordinator there. This was part of their national championship run with.
That'd be amazing if he was.
It really would have been. But you've got, can you imagine Charlie McBride and Monty Kiffin, co-defensive coordinators?
Would give up a point.
But it's interesting with his appreciation, because you mentioned Nebraska, but his appreciation for Nebraska and the fact that guy has been a journeyman ever since he left Nebraska. And when Frank Solch reached out to him, when they were going through the staff restructuring in 2003, that for the first call he made for his defensive coordinator was Monty Kiffin, just to see if he had interest. And that's where he said, well, I know a guy.
Yep.
And there's Bo Pelini. I thought that when he told us that story, I thought that was really cool to know that was where that stemmed from, was Monty Kiffin looking out for younger defensive minds. So it wasn't just, I think he had a passion and wanted to see Nebraska have the right people in place. I know that him and Frank were teammates, but I think the fact that he was always looking out for younger, passionate defensive minds to be able to promote and take on big jobs. But you knew if he was a guy that was going to recommend Bo Pelini, that he truly believed in Bo Pelini too.
I mean, he's got a long football history. Remember, he was designing a defense to go against Tony Dungy when Tony Dungy was playing quarterback at Minnesota.
I did like that story.
It's why I bring up Johnny Rodgers, because we are getting further and further away from the Devaney era. Like George Darlington is still around. George Darlington was kind of around back then. Was on T.O.'s first staff, and then the rest is history. But we don't have as many people that were around when Devaney was here to tell the story. And we like history around here. I mean, that's such a fabric of college football, and especially at a place like Nebraska, is we love the history of the teams, the sport, the traditions, all of those things. Is we're getting further and further away from the Devaney era, that I hope that we don't ever forget it, because Monty Kiffin and his impact at Nebraska, I mean, here's a Nebraska high school guy. I mean, loves Lexington. Went to his alma mater, played both sides of the football, got hired as a GA, worked his way into being a defensive coordinator. It's almost like Nebraska has forgotten about Monty Kiffin, in my opinion.
I agree. I 100% agree that if you talk to maybe people in their 30s right now, and you told them that Monty Kiffin,
people in their 30s right now don't even, the 94, 95, 97 is still kind of a, I was like 2, I was like 3.
Watch it on YouTube, and that's your memory.
But I mean, even a lot of people, if you bring up, oh yeah, Lane Kiffin's dad. Yeah, I remember him coaching in the NFL. Like I feel like there's more association to what he did in the NFL and knowing him from that standpoint, and still to this day is brought up in a lot of NFL circles when it comes to some of the great defensive coordinators that were out there. That if you told someone in their 30s, did you know that he cut his teeth and was part of he was a DC for 2 national championships for Nebraska, that they would take a step back. So I think even hearing this story, when we had a chance to talk to him, I was educated a lot on how much I knew he was a homegrown guy in Lexington. I knew he had played and coached in Nebraska, but a lot of the connections that he still had at that very day was very educational for me. So I think, as we've gotten further away from that era, I think the Monty Kiffin story would surprise a lot of people as far as how much he impacted Nebraska and really the start of the run of what was a dominant 3 decades of football.
Chris Kiffin was on Bo's first staff. He had some, I think he was a quality control assistant or something like that. And people have said, oh man, bring Lane back. I never really got Monty back here. The guy loved Nebraska. And I think there is part of, and I just alluded to this, because it came up in an interview that we did, and he was not alone on the Devaney to Osborne handoff. It was internally, it was not widely accepted. I mean, everybody on on Devaney's staff, there were a lot of young guys. I mean, Devaney didn't have like just old guys. I mean, he had some older veteran guys on his staff, but he had a lot of younger, really good coaches on his staff. And I still to this day think that Monty wanted to be the head coach at Nebraska and thought that he should have been considered over T.O. Now, he stayed and he worked with T.O. for 3 seasons, 4 seasons after that, until he moved on prior to the 77 season. But I think he wanted to be the head coach at Nebraska. But to this day, every time you ever ran into him and you bring up Nebraska, man, his eyes would light up and he'd talk Nebraska football. He loved Nebraska high school football. He'd tell old stories. He could come in here and add to our Aurora conversation and the great Aurora players.
We had Aurora Day.
Yeah. But I hope the impact is realized as we get further and further away. Man, he cut his teeth here. He played here, coached here, and then went on to an incredible career where he was recognized this offseason by the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It'd be nice to see longtime successful assistant coaches in the NFL get recognized more in Canton.
Agreed.
Whether it be Monty Kiffin, Buddy Ryan, or Bud Carson. Guys that were really, really good assistant coaches, coordinators. These guys are defensive coordinators that find a home in Canton.
Yep.
I would say you can't tell the story without certain people, and Monty would definitely be someone you can't tell the story of football and not include them. And that's how you determine a Hall of Famer. That's how you determine blue bloods when you were talking about Nebraska and their place. If you can't tell the history of something without insert here, there's your answer.
Well, and like you mentioned with the Bucs Super Bowl title, you're not doing that without that defense coordinator. You mentioned Buddy Ryan, 85 Bears. Everybody always thinks of Ditka, Peyton, Jim McMahon. Well, the architect behind the dominance of that was Buddy Ryan. So for
his impact that went
absolutely some of the greatest teams that we applaud that ever won a title. You look at most likely what wasn't just a head coach that was either competent enough to put someone on their staff that was going to make a difference, or was a good X and O's guys by their own right, but also had that type of coordinator that also elevated what they did. I would say Kiffin is in a rare fraternity of those types of guys that you can't talk about that season or that title without their impact that goes beyond just one good year of being a coordinator too. The other thing, so when you mentioned the T.O. Devaney transition, so this was also a time that I think a lot of people remember. We try to forget it because it was kind of an embarrassing time, but trying to find the successor for Frank Solich after he was fired. This is, again, where people were reminded of Monty Kiffin, if you didn't know, of his backstory, the fact that he was a defense coordinator for Nebraska, back-to-back national championships, loved Nebraska, when he was considered to be a big candidate for the job then. That's when I had heard finally about that he wanted that job when T.O. got it. I didn't know that until, what had this been, in 2004 or 2003 going into 2004 when they were looking for who was going to replace Frank Solich. That name was on everybody's list. And I remember people saying, so what's the Monty Kiffin connection as far as why he would want the job now? And people said, well, he really wanted it when T.O. got it. And I didn't know that was necessarily the case. And I can't remember, he didn't get offered it, right?
No.
Because there were Zimmer turned it down.
Oh, you're talking.
I'm talking about when Bill got hired. Bill Callahan got hired.
Oh, Monty Kiffin was never a serious candidate.
Yeah,
for the job.
Everybody just talked about him, and then that's where a lot of that came up. And it's kind of a blur of who was actually offered and turned down, and who wasn't, but was talked about. Of this would make sense. It was just interesting that at that time, you did finally have an opportunity, but between Steve Peterson kind of botching that whole thing and people just kind of turning that thing down left and right, wondering what they're getting themselves into with Steve Peterson, that maybe there would have been an opportunity to get Monty Kiffin that job in 2004, but obviously never happened.
Yeah, I was deep into that, and I'm not saying this is wrong. He was never a candidate.
Yeah.
At all.
People wanted him, though. He was talked about, and I think especially when you had maybe the first, or I can't even remember who turned it down first.
And he was probably a smart guy that he was not a candidate.
Yes.
Probably better for him.
Mitch's great article in The Athletic about that, which was a fascinating deep dive a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
really good. Brought back a lot of memories, and obviously you lived it.
I'll never forget that. The night that Bill Callahan was hired, I was handed 4 questions that were the only 4 questions I could ask him.
Oh, really?
How good was Rich Gannon?
Yeah.
Why did Charles Woodson try to fight you?
Why did Marty bench him for Elvis Gerback? Yes, I know you didn't coach them.
I know you're hosting the network show. He's got 7.5 minutes. These are the questions we'd like you to focus on.
All right, Noah Vanderhoff. Got it.
All right. Thanks, Bill. 7:32. A little bit later, Mike Schaefer will join us. Matt Verzal as well. Big day for Verz. Always a big day when he comes on the show. He'll join us coming up at 9:20. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, you're going into the weekend and you're thinking, I need to upgrade my sportswear. Shirts, polos, shorts. I'm going to be out on the golf course. I want to look good. You know where you can look good? You can always look good when you stop by Lindley Clothing, a staple in Omaha, a staple in your wardrobe, premier provider of men's fashion from suits to shorts and everything in between. They've got you covered, and they've been covering us men up for nearly 90 years. That's right. They stay in business not only because of the styles, the selection, the prices, but the customer service. You know what? When you are purchasing a suit or as a guy that you go to a certain place to pick out clothing, you want a personal relationship. And that's what they give you at Lindley Clothing. They know you by name, and they will go the extra mile for you. Top notch. Even if you have a body that's not easy to fit, Lindley Clothing will help you find the right fit. And don't forget to check out Well Suited. Is it expanded the inventory, the prices, the selection, the energy, everything top notch, but most importantly, the customer service. You get personal care at Lindley Clothing. Stop by there today. And don't forget, they got a big, huge sidewalk sale that is upcoming that I'll tell you about on Monday. Lindley Clothing and Well Suited, 132nd and West Dodge in the Linden Market.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. You get a lot of junk in your inbox. This one, not junk. Not junk at all. 1620 The Email. Exclusive content, contests, other stuff probably. Subscribe today at 1620 The
All right, so 2 weeks away from the Big Ten Media Days in Indianapolis, Ty Robinson, Mr. Gifford, Mr. Scott will all be representing Nebraska. So 2 defensive guys and a returning starter at center. And the day after, Ty Robinson releases his NIL commercial.
Yeah, so I didn't get a chance to. I didn't see the NIL commercial for Ty Robinson. I was hearing about this though. So what do we get? What is Ty Robinson up to now?
About 305. I don't know what he weighs.
That's probably somewhat accurate, actually. Yeah. Let me see this one. Just checking here. Okay.
He's not bad. He's actually, I think, a pretty good actor. He's going to have a chance to play a little pro football next year and beyond. But in terms of the acting, not bad. It's a pretty good commercial. It's for a Lincoln-based heating company where he sacks a water heater.
So we're getting the HVAC representation on the defensive line here, too. This is where we're doing heating and air. We got, of course, the polar bear. And, yeah, okay, so is this like now going to become a new trend where just for HVAC companies all of a sudden getting involved with the NIL? This we talked about maybe one of the great beginnings of any NIL thing that was making national news, and that was with Dakotas Crawford. And then obviously it doesn't work out with Dakotas. And then they use transition obviously into the polar bear, which works out well. And then now you're in another of that line of work in the heating company, the HVAC company, of getting Ty Robinson involved too. So who would have thought? I mean, this is where NIL is now. I mean, the possibilities are endless. The local businesses, this is what I think is really cool, is that you're getting not just the part of NIL when it comes to, I always thought people would be into like car dealerships. I think that would have always been the big one, because it always seemed like, and this has nothing to do with Rhett Bomar either, but there would always be car dealerships. You would maybe use what you kind of see through the professional lens of NFL players, insurance commercials, maybe. But having a little bit more of I don't know if anybody thought, well, HVAC companies would really get into NIL at all, or have that type of impact when it came to name, image, likeness, and paying players. But having people that, again, think outside the box, I don't know. It's definitely not an area that I would have thought you would see a lot of NIL activity when it came to having endorsements with certain companies.
It's actually a pretty good commercial. It's a nice little spot. Ty has a future. He's a really good public speaker. I think he'll be a very popular guy in Indianapolis when the contingent is there for the Big Ten Media Days, which are in 2 weeks. SEC Media Days are next week. Do you see the coverage on the SEC network? Who's going to be joining their coverage?
Nick Saban.
Nick Saban will. We always wonder about our parents or ourselves when we retire. What are we going to do? What are we going to be like? Are we going to enjoy it? Are we going to get bored? Nick Saban living a pretty good life. Maybe it's something about football coaches. I don't know that T.O. did this. Devaney certainly did. Devaney started to live his best life even more so when he retired. And he kind of he was basically retired as the athletic director.
Yeah.
But Nick Saban is like doing things. I said this yesterday about Belichick. Belichick is doing things that he couldn't do when he was coaching.
Yep.
Like, you couldn't go to Amsterdam and watch Taylor Swift if you were the coach of the Patriots. You certainly probably would not be dating a 23-year-old as the head coach of the Patriots. But now, because, the difference of about 50 years, you've got more energy.
Yeah, you're rejuvenated.
So you can date a 23-year-old as a retired 72-year-old man.
And keep up with her.
And so you get to do things like, I remember I worried about, like, my dad. My dad was always busy. And then when baseball, we didn't have to go to baseball games, I thought, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to my dad? My dad is like living his best life, doing things that I never thought he would do, and good on him. So that's, like, our parents might be doing that instead of just like, okay, I got nothing to do. I get up at 4:30, I read the paper.
Yeah.
By 4, I've had dinner, and
it's Groundhog Day.
7, I'm going back to bed.
Doing it, rinse and repeat in the morning.
But Nick Saban's life now includes, and this shocked me yesterday, when a picture was released, Nick Saban's got a beard.
Yeah. Not your full retirement, like a Kelsey beard.
No.
But it's a good look. It's a good look for him.
I actually think it is.
It is a good look for him.
I think a distinguished gentleman in his 70s that's retired that has a good-looking beard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, maybe...
He's just letting it all out.
Maybe when you retire, you lose your razor. I don't know. Is that a thing? I haven't retired yet. But it's actually like a good look. Nick Saban has kept me interested in game day.
Yeah.
I don't know what role he'll have. There's a lot of people there. McAfee is not officially back. But Nick Saban, just like Brady, who are living their best lives now that they're away from football and all the demands of football and the pressure, they actually may turn out to be the stars of television this upcoming fall.
You're right. I think, and
Belichick may be the same way with all the other different things that he's doing from McAfee to Manning and inside the NFL.
I think out of all three of them, and it's funny because you got, the common trait amongst all three of them is they were at the peak of their competition. They were robotic, almost to the point that you didn't get a chance to really see what type of a person or personality they truly had. Tom Brady, you at least got to see a little bit of that before he retired when he went to Tampa. But as far as New England, Tom Brady, that was like every other player. You were extremely committed to the Patriot way. And so it wasn't until he left there you got to see that. I would say out of all three of those, Bill Belichick is probably the most surprising. Yet if you listen to players who had been around him for a while, they would tell you inside, behind the closed doors, like he was a funny guy. He did have that personality. We just never saw it. He never let us see that. But out of all three of them, he's the one that you're like, whoa, okay, there's personality. He's talking. If you ever listen to him when he talks to McAfee, literally, if you're just hearing it on the radio, this isn't Bill Belichick. His voice sounds different, for God's sakes, as opposed to, we're on to Miami right now. Like he's got that energy, lets it out. Nick Saban, you could always kind of see it, but then as you got closer to the season, Saban was much like the other two, very focused, very laser focused, didn't let you in on a lot of things. And usually they came across, if they talked, especially the two coaches, that something was on their mind that they wanted to gripe about. But Saban now completely away from football. I'm maybe not as surprised with his ability on the air. But so this goes back to the conversation you and Jimmy were having when I was trying to make my way back here on Tuesday about Tom Brady's refuse in anything in life, his refusal to failure. And I thought of something when you guys were talking about that, but then I think a listener also chimed in and said, well, what about his divorce? Okay, sometimes it's not necessarily
even
failure.
Did that well.
Hey, sometimes it sucks and you live in Florida, you can do it online and you're like, oh, thank God.
But I mean, and that's not always, sometimes that's an inevitable failure. If you want to call it a failure or it's just something that's inevitable, whatever the case is.
A wise move.
Yeah, or maybe he would too. Maybe in some respects you could call that a victory as well. I thought the exact same thing, though, as far as he's going to be under a lot of scrutiny because of who he's replacing in the booth. But isn't there that part of Tom Brady? You're like, okay, now this is the competitor of Tom Brady that comes out.
That's what I said the other day. Yeah. He won't let himself fail.
I totally agree with that. But you're still going to get the other thing that I like about Tom Brady. He's not afraid to, I don't want to say crush people, but he's not afraid to be brutally honest with the assessment that he's seeing on the field. I always thought there's a little bit of that with Tony Romo, that besides the annoying anticipation before every play that at first everybody thought was awesome, and now it's like, Jesus, dude, just calm down. I always felt that he would pull some punches. I don't think Tom Brady will do that based on how you've heard him converse and talk about the game itself. I think you're going to get some pretty solid criticism as long as it's justified. I don't think he's going to pull any punches.
The league will miss Saban. It'll be kind of unique to hear him at SEC Media Days because I imagine he'll interview coaches. You imagine him interviewing
Kirby Smart,
Lane Kiffin. Well, Kirby Smart slides up next to him. Saban's got to say, hey, Kirby, why don't they like you in Athens?
What's going on with your players continuing to have driving issues as well?
Well, I'd say, you know what? My players had issues in Tuscaloosa, but I had a relationship with the authorities. They never let that get out. Why don't they like you in Athens, Kirby?
That is a good
one. You won some national championships.
Yeah, that is a fair question, too.
There was a picture the other day from the Daily Mail, Jimmy's favorite website, of Jordan and Bill holding hands walking into a restaurant.
Bill,
the internet would break this weekend if there was his
Michael Jordan and Bill Swift,
their 23-year-old girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I don't have anything wrong with that, man. You're 72. Go get it. Get the bag, get the gal, do whatever you got to do. You know what? Because age is only a number. It's, well, in our current climate, I probably should not go there. But the internet would break this weekend if Haktua girl would all of a sudden be involved.
Bill Belichick is now just part of his circle now.
She's up to her 14 minutes of 15 minutes of fame. She's on the cover of Rolling Stone this week.
Oh my God.
I hate Nell.
Jesus.
At least we get the damn video game back next week.
For a girl who talked about a method on how she gets down with a guy, that is now, she has now just owned the spotlight.
All because of spitting.
And then there's her friend who's just with her all the time.
Why did not? So, what did
Handler?
you say? It's all because of spitting?
All because of spitting.
How come it did not benefit Keith Hernandez?
I was just going to say something similar.
That, my friends, is one magic loogie.
It's 7:50.
Well done.
Mike Schaefer, Matt Verzal, a little bit later on 1620 The Zone. Good news from Torey Lavello, the manager of the National League All-Star team. He is on Team Skeens. They won't announce it until Monday who's starting for the National League, but expect Paul Skeens to be the starting pitcher. First time a rookie has started Rain Man since?
I know this one.
Crap, I don't.
Nomo.
Yes.
Oh.
Hideo in 95.
Yeah.
That started the All-Star game. We have a 5-minute warning for people that are sitting in their cars, and I'm seeing pictures here of the Costco. The new Costco in Omaha. Big day in Omaha.
Ooh, they're opening at 8. Usually, they're 10?
Will Joey have reports from it?
Hopefully.
That would be fun.
Well, I'm sure there'll be some traffic reports.
So, let's see here. I've gotten somebody who is listening to us that is sitting in the parking lot. Now it looks like there is a lengthy line to get in.
Oh, boy.
So,
just to go
big
to
day in Omaha.
Have you ever gone to a Costco when it opens? Like right before it opens?
No.
No, I'm not saying that you needed to, but you're just like, I'm going to go.
Have you ever stuck a pin in your eye?
Have you ever gargled thumbtacks?
Have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Do you like movies of gladiators?
Actually, I do.
Okay. Well, let's go to the movie Gladiators.
I think one of the worst villains in the history of movies was from Gladiators.
Joaquin
But
Phoenix,
continue on.
Yeah. I just I needed to do a Costco run. I just so happened to be in the area right around 10 when this happened on a Sunday.
Oh, you're talking about when it opens for the day.
Yeah, for the day.
Oh.
There's
okay.
I do try and I've never been in there, but there are places that I hit right when they open because I know they'll be busy.
People flock to it. I mean, it's still there's a line all the way ready to go in on just a normal day.
I am team go to the original Costco if you have to go to Costco today. That place is going to be barren. And
as much as a Costco can be, that's why I want you to go and let me know how truly empty it is.
I got things to do today.
You said you're going to go today.
I'll be there later.
Okay.
I'll probably stop back on my way. But good on all you that are going for the opening day. Now, I've thought about getting in line. I did do this for a Dunkin' here in town because they're giving away coffee for a year.
Oh.
And I like my coffee. And so I tried to be one of the first, and it didn't work out.
Oh.
But whenever you open a Chick-fil-A, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
All the people because you get Chick-fil-A either for life or for an entire year.
Yeah.
If you dress like a cow or something and you camp out overnight, just chicken. What a chicken.
It's for a chicken sandwich.
As a tribute to Costco opening here in Omaha, and it's a big deal. I mean, it's a terrible deal for people that live out there. Remember when Maple was all torn up?
Yeah.
And it was a pain in the... Now it's...
Yeah, when I moved here.
Now there's just so much stuff that's out there. Like from 180th to 204th, you might as well... They should put the Orbit out there. Or the streetcar.
Give it time.
Because
there should be an Orbit out there.
Trying to drive is a pain. But a special appearance. The Costco guys are going to join the show after the top of the hour. If you are familiar with their work, they've got a song.
About this particular location?
Not about this particular location.
Just the song.
They're just known as the Costco guys.
Okay.
Google them. They're going to join the show next on 1620 The Zone.
Halftime brought to you by Omaha Whiskey Fest 2024, the largest celebration of whiskey in the region. It'll be going on September 28th. Also, be sure to mark your calendars here on 1620 The Zone in mornings with Sharp and Handley for Whiskey Wednesdays coming very soon.
Today, on the 12th of July, is the 45th anniversary of Disco Demolition Night.
Oh,
the night disco died.
And we talked about it. If you look up
Comiskey Park
the death of disco, they do credit Disco Demolition Night.
Now, speaking of death, I'm not sure if this will happen, but with the new Costco that's opening in Omaha, and it's like a celebration. People are taking off work. I mean, it's back-to-back take-off Fridays because next week is the college football game. But there are a son and his dad live in South Florida. And they like to go to Costco, and they all of a sudden became the Costco guys on TikTok. AJ and Big Justice. They would go shopping, and they would eat a chicken bake. Then they would have a double chunk chocolate cookie. And they would walk around Costco.
Now they have diabetes.
Buying things. But they would put out videos, and all of a sudden, 21 million views later,
Jesus,
the Costco guys have become a thing. And so, as a tribute to Omaha opening up their newest Costco, the whole family, dropped a little song yesterday.
Costco guys.
Wow.
Costco guys.
Should we keep that in the rotation?
Yeah, totally.
Is anyone recruiting the kid? He looks like he could grow into a great tackle.
Keeps hitting those,
Quick,
eating those
pull.
chicken bakes.
It's like a real life Kenny Powers hitting the ball.
So the story behind these two,
if UM's not all over him,
the story behind these two, because they showed up on my TikTok when they first started doing this, is they got kicked out of Costco. So they were walking around doing their shopping. Dad throws, like half the side of a cow over his shoulder. And then Dad,
impressive.
if you've not seen him, Dad may have lifted a weight or two in his life. I mean, he's cock diesel. And son is a rather large
he's on his way.
individual, but
It's festively plump.
Nice.
Festively plump.
Festively
Doesn't mean you can't outgrow it.
I didn't know if there was some muscle in there.
Could
Not
be.
yet. Not yet.
Could be.
Put him on the right program.
It's got that stubborn layer in front of him.
I mean, father and son, they want to be content creators. They go to TikTok. They go into Costco and they're shopping. And so like they're throwing the big, crates of paper towels and toilet paper back and forth.
It's like
they're
Junior
grabbing
Floyd.
water. But they're going in Costco talking about their Costco trip. And the first time they did this and they put the video out on TikTok, Costco shut them down. And then Costco was like, whoa.
Wait a minute.
Because they had gotten like 4 million views.
This is free
and Costco
advertising.
marketing is like, oh, okay. So now they've leaned into it and they're the Costco guys. And so every time they go to Costco, they do a video of them shopping and what they are getting.
Yeah.
And it usually ends with the kid eating a chicken bake.
And it's a big chicken bake, too.
Or the double chunk chocolate cookie.
Which, by the way, is huge. The double chunk chocolate chip cookie is enormous. I've seen the one where he's curling tires. The dad is.
Yes.
He's curling tires. I just wonder if they take this show on the road. So where if you really want to get in on the bit, if you are Costco, like a day like today, you're
Bring them here.
Opening up a new one, that they
Summer.
show up. that would actually be a big deal.
They'd feel at home this weekend here, a little warm.
Now, you mentioned how many, the very first video was what? Like 21 million?
Christ.
That,
at least we have
to
the video
me,
game coming back next week.
Would say that there'd be a lot of people that would probably recognize him if they were there, even in the West Maple one today. Now, I'm not a TikToker.
There might be a couple people that yell GBR at them.
But my wife does belong to a Costco.
We're the
Facebook
Costco guys. 188th and Maple. We're the Costco guys.
They do. They need to have a specific song for the
That
new
sounded
location.
like the cornbread and chicken. Had the sort of the same cadence to it.
Okay. I don't think you have access over there, but there's another. So there is a question lingering out on the interwebs. What is a worse song? That song, or there was another content creator that did a song about I am snacking.
Is this one?
I'm only familiar with I am hip.
See if you can bring this up.
The I am snacking one.
You don't have TikTok on that computer, but
Yeah.
go to YouTube. I am snacking.
Was this recent?
Yes.
Oh.
I think.
17 seconds. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So play that. Which song is worse? The Costco guys.
Was this
with
the one
their
you played
newly
during the
released-
break?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right. Apologies on the stream. We can't play this on the stream. But it's on the radio on AM.
This is the Megan Thee Stallion, right? Parody.
Looking at her, I'm going to call BS on all of that unless she's throwing it up
Yeah, I mean,
afterwards.
she's good for her. If she snacks, she.
I've snacked on all those things, and I do not look like that.
How great is this country?
It's not.
I mean, we
that's
have a
one
lot
way.
of things that are going on at the top.
You just need a little bit more of this.
This country is fantastic. That we live in a
so don't act
a
surprised.
country that can have the Costco guys and the I am snacking all together, and everybody's making a bag.
They are.
Okay, there are some lonely people out there.
Don't forget
that,
Hot Tua.
That 20 million
Mm-hmm.
people watched this most recent video, and I am snacking has like 15 million. What a great country!
What does it say about us?
What a great country!
Says they're taking away the hub in many states, apparently.
I mean, more of this kind of content and less multi-part questions to leaders of the free world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's fair. Now, this is an honest question. Do you think the I'm snacking girl is getting more attention because she's attractive? Honest
Nick.
question. Honest
Yes,
question.
Nick.
Okay.
That's exactly
I'm just,
what it is.
we're all thinking it.
I'm just calling
Just
it
gonna
what
ask
it
a
is.
question. Because she's
not ugly.
There's hip movement when she's talking about snacking.
After a few drinks, she looks like Cameron Brink.
Actually, she does kind of. It's not Cameron Brink, by the way. Her knee wouldn't be able to handle that.
I saw a video last night. Her knee's fine.
She still she doesn't have a brace
the
on
brace,
anything.
yeah.
She's doing well.
She does. No, it's a good call. This girl does kind of resemble Cameron Brink. Not as tall, but I'm assuming that some of the popularity does have to do with
bringing the boom,
the look. Now, for the Costco guys, I can't really say that. I think it's just so people are in love with Costco. So if you're going to all of a sudden just be promoting
I
your
see a future
your
great
journey
lineman.
around Costco and eating chicken bakes and chocolate chip cookies and doing curls with tires. We'll watch.
Rub
because
goat's milk
this
on
is
the
what we do.
calves.
We might be seeing the ending of Sam's. Sam's might be coming to an end.
Do they need a Sam's person? The Sam's guys?
I do.
Oh, would it be a watered down version though? It just wouldn't be the same.
I don't know,
They didn't come up with their own thing.
Maybe they'll make a move and try and buy off the
They
Costco
get the
guys.
there you go. You get a
Free
trade.
agency.
Yep.
NIL.
All
All
right,
of the above.
Smartest thing they could do.
Take a break. Mike Schaefer coming up at the top of the hour. When we come back, Kyle McCord has made some news about his trip to Nebraska. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
What a strange week that was back in December. Kyle McCord's now at Syracuse. Dylan Raiola is now in Nebraska. Does one have to be better than the other this upcoming year? 8-12. Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in. Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy. There's moments of time in Nebraska football history that you would like an expose on. Jimmy alluded to Mitch Sherman doing the Steve Peterson coaching search expose.
Not the late 80s music group expose.
That thing was wild.
They were bad.
That thing was wild back in the day. We also probably need an expose on the week that Kyle McCord showed up to visit Nebraska, and he arrived right after a text message from Dylan Raiola, and Dominic Raiola arrived at Nebraska back in December. You remember those times?
Oh, yes.
Where Kyle McCord was on campus. Looked like Nebraska was going to have the quarterback for 2024. He was coming from Ohio State. By the way, at a place where one of his issues was he was not C.J. Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
Marvin Harrison Jr. was on Hard Knocks, the Giants Hard Knocks, and they were looking at Ohio State film, and good on Maserati Marv. He did not throw Kyle McCord under the bus.
Mike Rowe did.
But his wide receiver, his star wide receiver, could have absolutely destroyed Kyle McCord. So Kyle McCord and Dad come to Nebraska. Weird week, because Rule was under the weather that week as well. And it had been kind of quiet. No one was anticipating Dylan. You get a text message. You got a guy on campus. Dad finds out about it. They all of a sudden want a wheel and deal, and they want some guarantees because the tone of the visit had changed. I don't blame the McCords for all of a sudden going, yeah, we want this, this, and this, because they had to realize that Nebraska went from, okay, let's get into this. Let's talk. And to, where else are you going? So it ends up good for both sides. Kyle McCord goes to Syracuse. Dylan Raiola goes to Nebraska. And it has been kind of quiet. McCord has not talked about his visit to Nebraska much, but it was a weird week that culminated with a official visit from Dylan Raiola. But McCord was on campus, going to be the quarterback. Didn't happen. He's out. And Nebraska offered some NIL money. So the athletic director at Syracuse earlier this week said Kyle McCord's not our quarterback this year without Syracuse football NIL. He is our quarterback and turned down twice the money from Nebraska. Would you like to take a guess? And this is a further quote from the athletic director at Syracuse, quote, and I know that for a fact because I have a friend from Nebraska who's on the coaching staff who called me the day Kyle committed to us. I won't tell you what he said to me. He busted my chops pretty good, but my response was, Kyle's wearing blue and orange. He's ours. Would you like to guess who that assistant coach is?
Does it rhyme with Boney?
Boney might.
Probably a guy that runs the defense.
And I know that for a fact because I have a friend from Nebraska who's on the coaching staff. Where was Boney Might previously?
Syracuse.
Was offered a job at ESPN just for being at Syracuse.
So
maybe it was Stefan Thompson, even though he wasn't a coach.
See, these are why we need trades in college athletics.
It's coming.
Nebraska and Syracuse kind of made some trades.
They did, yeah.
Hey, we don't own Kyle McCord, but we'll send him your way.
Yeah.
Send us a linebacker.
Yeah, send us a linebacker. We've talked to Kyle McCord. He's interested, but you know what? Upon further review, there's a new development in our quarterback room that we would be more than happy to usher him your way.
Speaking of a linebacker coming from Syracuse to Nebraska, Mr. Athletic Director at Syracuse, your standards there, even though I think they made a good hire with Fran Brown, your standards there are a little bit different from the standards here because the linebacker that's coming from Syracuse to Nebraska is still struggling with the Nebraska standards.
It's true.
Okay, just going to leave it at that. So would you like to take a gander at how much Kyle McCord was offered, and then would you like to speculate on how much Dad asked for?
I bet he was offered around six-figure $100K.
Okay.
I bet Dad asked for $800K.
Now, let me also throw this into the discussion. I mean, this is meaningless now as long as 15 is 15. This is also around the same time that Rule is talking about how much a quarterback's going to cost.
Yep.
Now, Nebraska has a limit on what they're willing to spend.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys elicit more. It just happens to be a quarterback that's on campus right now. But they have a limit on how they will go. Just a personal preference. But remember, he said good quarterbacks are costing in the range of $1 to $1.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was, I don't know what other program threw out $2 million.
Yeah.
I think at Nebraska, he was probably offered in the range of $500K.
Okay.
To be the quarterback, and got significantly less at Syracuse because Syracuse does not have the funds that Nebraska has. That's neither here nor there now because it didn't work out and Nebraska got what they wanted. But I don't blame the McCords. I mean, Nebraska probably caught a break, but I don't blame the McCords. All of a sudden you hear that guy wants to come back here because they found out about it on their trip. It was shared with them.
Mm-hmm.
Then they start making demands. I get it. That's how the American way. That's how the Costco guys have blown up. But here's an interesting question. Last year, McCord, don't knock the Costco guys.
I just love how you lump them into this conversation, which is really good.
I can loop anything into Nebraska football. Give me a subject.
World peace.
If you recall, the last time last time Nebraska won a national championship, we did not have any wars going on in this world.
Mm-hmm. Good job. That was very good.
Yeah.
It was very good.
Those days.
So really, if the lawmakers in Washington want world peace, they need to contribute to the NIL fund for Nebraska so we can buy some
They need to be at the practice at least.
They need to pass a law that David Sanders needs to come to Nebraska.
Yep.
Okay. 3,170 yards passing, 65.8% completion percentage, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Those were the numbers that McCord had last year at Ohio State. Again, he wasn't C.J. Stroud, and that's what he was replacing. And for what Ohio State needed, he couldn't deliver. But those numbers, if you had those numbers this year for the freshman quarterback at Nebraska, wouldn't you think that's a good season?
Yes.
Okay. So this is my question. And I may be just, you may go, oh, Jesus, sharp as clickbait today. Doesn't Raiola have to be better than McCord? Because McCord is could be drafted next year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe way down, but could be drafted. I mean, I'm sure mock drafts of quarterbacks, he might, be 8 or 9 or 10 on a list. But does anybody want to compare the seasons of the guy in Lincoln and the guy that Nebraska probably had the most realistic chance of getting at quarterback? One's a freshman. One played at one of the best programs in the country last year.
Well, I want to start with those numbers, though, because 65% completion percentage would be a significant upgrade from what Nebraska's had over the past few years. Actually, for a while. Then you look at the touchdown to interception ratio, heavily in favor of the touchdown passes. You like that. So,
with those wide receivers, how do you only throw 24 touchdown passes?
And so that kind of leads me to my next part of this. You have to consider the personnel that Kyle McCord was around. And this isn't the whole, okay, well, we've got Dylan now, so I'm going to speak badly. I think Mike Groh did enough of that, or at least tried to insinuate enough of that on Hard Knocks. I think that obviously has to. Does anybody think that he'll have the same type of effectiveness in a brand new offense that, no disrespect to Syracuse, but they don't have that type of personnel all around. And it's not just even the wide receivers, but the offensive line, the running back stable that you have, and the overall coaching. I think it would be okay, in my opinion, to compare what they do in this year, because Dylan Raio's in a better situation than what Kyle McCord's in. And if Kyle McCord is really limited on his abilities, wouldn't that be exposed this year?
Yes. I'm trying to get to the bottom. So this is a rumor that is out there about McCord's visit to Nebraska and the interest that Nebraska had in McCord. I have not been able to confirm this, but this is a strong rumor that the switchboard in the Nebraska football office was lighting up from Michigan fans that thought this would be a great idea for Nebraska to take McCord. The one thing about McCord, and here's the Ohio State problem, and this may morph into a Will Howard thing. Ohio State wants their quarterbacks to be Justin Fields or C.J. Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
Man, those are two NFL dudes, one on a trajectory higher than the other.
Yes.
They're pretty good college quarterbacks,
Yeah.
like really, really good college quarterbacks.
Can't deny that at all.
Do you know that McCord was in the same class as Ewers,
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Williams, Drake May, Milroe, Ole Miss quarterback,
Dart.
That was his class. But I don't know if these two will be attached, but it'll be something interesting to see how they play this year. Stats are going to be a little bit different, but just the quality of play.
You're talking about Will Howard versus
McCord and Raiola.
Oh, okay. I think from a national standpoint,
I could throw those wide receivers and I'd have a good year in Columbus.
Exactly. I think from a national standpoint, it's not going to, but I would assume, especially with what was mentioned by the athletic director at Syracuse, that there could be a little bit of paying attention to Dylan Raiola on the Syracuse side of it, especially if Kyle McCord is having an okay year. I think from the Nebraska side of it, there's probably a little bit of that. But again, I think you're only doing that if your guy's struggling. I think the only way, if you're a Nebraska fan, that you care how Kyle McCord is doing is if, well, maybe two reasons. You're struggling and Syracuse is actually having a pretty good year. And the reason they're having a good year is because they elevated the quarterback position significantly. I feel very strongly when you had the talents of C.J. Stroud and Justin Fields, what they could do in that offense with the receivers that they had. But then when all else failed, when everybody put everything they had into try to neutralize those skill position players, that, oh yeah, by the way, especially Justin Fields, they could burn you with their legs too. Kyle McCord wasn't doing that. Will Howard's not going to do that as much either. But, and I'm not saying Dylan Raiola is going to do that either. But I think the biggest reason to pay attention to one or the other is completely dependent on how your guy is doing. If your guy, from the Nebraska standpoint, is doing great, you don't care. You could care less. Because as I think we could all agree, at least be confident in, if Dylan Raiola is playing at a high level for a freshman, you're going to see the wins that come with that, and you could care less what's going on in Syracuse. But if you're struggling, and on the other side, Syracuse is having an okay year, then I'm not saying you're mad and, oh, God, why couldn't we get him? But you're at least, you're mindful of it. I don't think at any point during any type of struggles that Dylan would have, are you thinking, damn it, if we could just go back to that day and keep our eye on the prize of getting a guy that's already got college football experience and somehow get him here, boy, I'd take that. Because I don't think any fan is going to say that.
I'd not even thought about Kyle McCord until the Syracuse AD brought up the NIL.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think anybody really will. From a national standpoint, no one's going to care. Either way, regardless of how either of these quarterbacks are playing. They're never going to be connected from the national standpoint.
I want to know what Tony White said to the Syracuse AD about Kyle McCord.
I kind of do too. Do you think Tony brought up number 15? That's fine. You can have him. We got a guy coming in.
Well, I want to know if there was a follow-up after spring ball. Mike Schaefer will join us in about 30 minutes. Yeah, yesterday something was released. Did you guys enjoy a cupcake yesterday?
No.
Because Nebraska basketball delivered a bunch of them to you yesterday. We'll get into that when we come back. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and 1620 The Zone.
Jim in the stream. Apparently, I took him back to college.
Ah, all right. Maybe we'll have some college news today locally. Friday, so we expect a news dump. We'll say 5:02 will be, if there's going to be a news dump today, it'll be a 5:02 college-related news dump.
What is that Durango up to now?
Do you think it has also any impact that there is a new Costco opening, so people would be even more distracted than what they normally would be on a Friday in July?
I don't know. Will it be? Would a news dump today be big enough to knock Costco off the A block of a television newscast?
No.
What are you guys doing over there? You guys, what's that noise?
See,
we're kind of thinking
just thinking it'd have to be something pretty juicy if it's going to knock Costco off the A block.
You two married guys got to take care of business, I guess.
It is Friday.
How many calories are in a cupcake?
1,200.
Not gluten-free, none of that stuff. I want the full
Good old
calories.
American.
Jones Bros.
Yeah.
Give me a big old cupcake.
A big old gob of icing on top of the cupcake.
Mm-hmm.
Whole 9 yards. 1,400 calories.
Yeah, probably. I would say between 1,000 to 1,200. That ballpark.
Which I learned is like half a Coke.
Yeah, you know what? Hey, on that note, the old cookie places here in town, like Crumble Cookie is popular.
Yeah.
Insomnia Cookies is going to open up another spot in Blackstone.
Nice.
There are other
that place.
What's the place by Smash Park across the street? Dough.
I've never been there.
Ooh. I think it's something dough.
They're
kind of off on their calories. I go to Crumble Cookie and like one of the things says 190 calories.
Yeah,
and they're like, that's for like a sliver of the cookie.
Okay, would this surprise you?
No, that's not what I heard. 190 calories for a cookie. That's all I heard.
Yeah,
I'm
good.
Salad.
All right, cool. I'm good. Would this surprise you if I told you a homemade vanilla cupcake with creamy vanilla frosting has 411 calories?
Okay, that's different from your 1,200.
Yeah, it is.
So you'll be able to bank some for the day.
Yep.
Healthy.
Yep.
Pop 3
So
of them.
that's how much is in a cupcake. A cupcake in college basketball with a non-conference schedule is anybody that has a 250-plus net.
Yeah.
Okay? So with that said, we will discuss our love of UT, Rio Grande Valley, Bethune-Cookman,
Farley Dickens,
South Dakota, North Florida, and Southern coming to PBA. But first, let's talk to Eric, who wants to chime in on our previous discussion about Kyle McCord. Good morning, Eric.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, just ever since that McCord Rayola thing's been brought up, and when it was going on last year, it's kind of reminded me of two teams you guys like. Just think back to like 2017 and those draft rooms.
Oh, you're talking about the Bears and the Chiefs. Come on, man. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Man, it has that feel to it. It just has that. I'm not comparing him to the guy in Kansas City, but it definitely has that feel between those two, Trubisky and Patty. So
Kyle McCord is Mitchell Trubisky, is what you're saying.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like Gary. Gary's hesitant to compare them, but I mean, it has that look from the outside. It just kind of has that 2017 feel.
Let's just play this game. So let's say that one guy sticks with his commitment to Georgia and McCord is the quarterback in Nebraska. How are you feeling on July 12th?
Not good.
Okay.
Not good. I don't know. I don't think McCord is or was the answer. So I'm pretty happy where we're sitting.
There are a lot of people in the same category.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, thanks for the call. There's also more than just what you do in 24. You're getting an impact of a high school 5-star that's got at least 3 years on your campus.
Yep.
I hadn't thought about old Kyle until the Syracuse athletic director talked about it. Okay, now let's talk about what Hoiberg did yesterday. I hate this trend. It's a Nebraska thing the last 2 years. At least last year they gave you a crumb and they said, "Hey, Creighton's coming here, and they're going to bring the superstars." You thought, boy, can Sunday get any better? I might skip church. Swing.
You mentioned it was a big day for Deion Salamanders.
But coming off a 23-win season, trip to the NCAA tournament, some momentum, some excitement, you would think at the beginning of the year, let's get some people in the barn.
Mm-hmm.
Because just because you're playing Nebraska basketball doesn't mean people are showing up at PBA.
Right.
I mean, there's some light in the short crowds last year for some of those bad non-conference games. It's the second straight year Nebraska's done it. This is a little bit of a step back because you're not delivering a Creighton.
Right.
Like who's coming to Lincoln is not, you're like, okay, how much cash we paying for these teams? As a fan, as somebody who goes to the games and owns tickets, this is a disservice. Good on Creighton. Creighton's home schedule last year wasn't great. This year, it's a great home schedule. And they're different. They're different levels. But what a non-conference schedule like this does, and I hate this trend. I absolutely hate this. And don't give me, at least they're playing Creighton in Omaha, or you can go to Sioux Falls and see St. Mary's. I want to see a freaking game in Pinnacle Bank Arena. Okay, that's a home court. Do a home and home with somebody. Even a team that, I get semi, husked. Okay, I don't need full husk here.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because I'm going to get that with my Big Ten teams.
Just a little movement.
But give me something. Yeah, like South Dakota, North Florida, Southern, my husk goes away. It like goes back inside.
It's inverted.
I think this is this is a disservice to the fans, but it might be a disservice to your basketball program.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have a schedule like this, and I also imagine when Nebraska committed to the Diamond Head Classic, they thought the field would be a little bit better. It's not a great field.
Yeah.
Their non-con last year wasn't great. It was 322, and they got a bump from the Big Ten, and the Big Ten will be tougher this year. But when you have a non-conference schedule like Nebraska introduced yesterday, you leave yourself no margin of error. Okay, you can't drop a couple of bye games and think, oh, we'll make up for it in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
You leave yourself no margin of error where you essentially have to win 10 games. And the only acceptable loss would be in Omaha against Creighton. That's the way I look at the schedule. If you feel like your roster is equipped to handle that, go get them. But you got to do work in the Big Ten where you might finish 9th this year and say, man, we had a good season, but not get into the tournament.
Yes.
I was really disappointed. I would just take one game. I don't need banger after banger. I don't need a home and home with KU. I don't need that stuff. I just want one game. I don't want we have a big checkbook and let's bring in whoever needs some help so that Bethune-Cookman can get extra cleats for the football team.
Right. Hell, give me Oklahoma, or whether we're talking about when they were in the Big 12 or now the SEC, or a mid to lower tier Power 6 team that you can do a home and home with. So the trend that I think you typically see for teams that are not NCAA traditional teams, NCAA tournament traditional teams, meaning out of a 5-year span, you're making it at least 3 years. We all know the drought that Nebraska was able to snap last year of getting to the NCAA tournament. Typically with those teams, especially ones that do have a good home following, I always feel like there is that trend to reward your home crowd, your support, with at least one game, at least one appetizing game that you can say, okay, cool, because then around that, you then can start to look at your games on the road where you have Creighton. You can look at the neutral site game at the Pentagon with St. Mary's and say, okay, this isn't actually a bad non-conference. I get one decent game at home. I get one neutral site that's an easy drive, and then I get the road game, which is even an easier drive to Omaha. But you brought up probably the most important part of this entire conversation. Last year, it didn't come back and bite Nebraska in the ass. But it was a big part of the conversation of Nebraska in the tournament, and that was their strength of schedule and their non-conference slate. It was a huge thing that was being used against them. What it does now, not only does it, and for you, I'm sorry, because you're more invested in this as a season ticket holder.
I want my money back. I want a discount.
You should. I think it's fair too.
Just take the money and convert it to $18.90.
At least a couple of free beers for every game you go. There you go.
Ooh, free beer.
That's what they're doing.
At least they have an interesting team that I'm like, oh, okay, I want to see this. But it'll be tough.
Well, that margin for error.
I think. So let's go this way with this. Let's say you have bought season tickets, and they're not cheap, but they're not. The good thing about Nebraska is they're not really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
What if you say, nah, I'm not gonna renew this year because I'll be able to get cheap tickets for the non-con, and then I'll work my way through the conference season where it'll cost me a little bit more depending on opponent. But for the non-con, why would I pay full price for a ticket where on the secondary market or outside of the arena or my buddy that lives next door, I can pay $10 to sit in the 100 level?
Mm-hmm.
Those are just the selfish part of me The basketball part, I understand a little bit why they did this. I was just disappointed that there was not more of a name of a 23-win season when your acceptability is making a run to the NCAA tournament again.
I totally agree. And I almost expected it to be at least a program of note. Again, I just throw out Oklahoma, given where they finished in the Big 12 last year, going into the SEC. But then you, like they did with K-State, you get a little bit of that familiarity with an old Big 8, Big 12 opponent. I'm not saying you have to do that, but it's at least a brand you're familiar with, and it's of the Power 6 variety. There's nothing wrong with that. And at some point, okay, I get it. You're going to be testing your team with St. Mary's. You're going to be testing your team with Creighton. But there's that part that worries me, because I understand trying to stack as many wins as you possibly can before you get into a meat grinder of a conference slate. But I also think when you don't give yourself any type of backdrop when it comes to your non-conference, or at least somewhat of a softer landing, that if you don't go on all these different runs, and give Nebraska credit, last year they did not have any prolonged losing streak. But if you were, say, to have a losing streak or a bad month where you need to at least be able to point back to one redeeming quality in your resume that you could point and say, look at our non-conference. We were on the road against Creighton, regardless of how that one went. We're at a neutral site against St. Mary's, and we hosted West Virginia. I don't know. Just throw another team out there. And then we had some other teams around there. Again, that's more of a redeeming non-conference slate that, okay, so even with a little bit of a rough patch in the conference play, you could look back and say, okay, what's their strength of schedule, especially when it factors in the non-conference, and you get a little bit of an uptick as opposed to playing, Fairleigh Dickinson and Rio Grande Valley. It's disappointing from the momentum you're coming off of, and the fact that the season ticket holders last year were rewarded with a great season last year that you hope just throw at least one of those opponents. I always feel like that's pretty common when you're coming off of a good year.
Jeremy writes in, actually tweets in, I was contemplating buying one of my buddy's season tickets off him. I then saw the non-con and was like, nope, no thanks.
Yeah.
Why have season tickets? Just buy on the secondary market. They're going to have a lot of availability. They had momentum. They have a 3-win season. Just throw us boom. Just need one game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need a bunch of like cupcakes that their net is 250 or more.
Yep.
But you
do
do
it.
You do it to yourself. You have you have little margin for error.
Yeah.
So in the non-con, you essentially got to be 10-1, and then find a way to win 8, 9, 10 games in the conference season.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to this. This was one of the more impressive things about that team last year is they never went on any prolonged funk. But if you do, which is especially for teams like Nebraska that are still building that identity under Fred, and you're trying to capitalize on what you're able to do last year, but you are going to have some new faces that are going to be in the mix this year in some key spots, you put yourself in a position where with that non-conference schedule, you've got to basically do the same thing you did a year ago when it comes to not having any type of prolonged funk. And I'm not 100% confident, even if they have an okay season, like a decent season, that you don't avoid that type of stretch of games in the conference.
All right, Mike Schaefer's coming up at the top of the hour, and then a special moment for Matt Verzal. He'll join us in the last hour. Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy at 1620 The Zone. All right, last hour. Let's welcome in our good friend from Husker 24/7, back from another paternity leave. It is Mike Schaefer. Good morning.
Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Good. How was your vacation?
Good. It was good. I mean, I enjoyed a little lake life during the 4th of July holiday. You know, had a bit of news that I had to try to chase down while on a boat in the middle of a nice Nebraska lake, but it helped that I had a little bit of advanced knowledge of what was coming, so we weren't out of position. But I would strongly prefer, if Nebraska would stop having to replace assistant coaches in what's supposed to be the slowest month of the calendar year, but it's college football, and they do whatever they want. So we just react to it appropriately.
Did you have to dock immediately? What was the process? How far out on the lake were you when you realized you had to get something out there?
We were pretty far out on the lake. The good news was, like I said, I had been chasing this since Wednesday. We had heard Nebraska was interviewing defensive backs coaches, and they still had the position filled. So we were sort of chasing that earlier in the week. So we kind of had an idea of what was coming. But it was a situation where I got a phone call right before we went out of service. I was able to shoot Michael Bruntz a text.
Okay.
We went out of service. I did not want to ruin the boat ride for other people. So I kept the faith. And when we got back into service, my phone went off like the 4th of July. And I saw that Bruntz had received the text. We had a story up. I saw that Pete Thamel had gotten the news out to the masses, the awaiting masses. And, we were off and running at that point. And I just went back to enjoying a nice beverage and the boat.
I know. Good. Hey, Capitol Lake looks really good this time of the year.
It was not Capitol Lake.
Oh.
I'm fairly certain that you can have coverage throughout the entirety of Capitol Lake. I'm not positive. If someone would like to invite me on a boat on Capitol Lake, I can check that and get back to you guys, but I will wait to see which listener wants to have me on their boat.
I haven't been to Capitol Lake. So the late Adrian Fiala used to live out there, and he'd have a big party during the summer before football kicked off. I really liked it out there. I haven't been back out there. It's still a nice area, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, I have not spent a ton of time out there. I know probably about 6 years ago, actually longer than that now, 8 years ago, when I'm in just the peak of my bachelordom, there was a like 1 bedroom, 1 bath little house on Capitol Lake that was available. And I strongly considered selling my my place to just move into this, assuming that I was never going to find anyone anyways. Why would I need a big house when I could live on a lake and, you get 1 bedroom, 1 bath? What more do you need? So I sometimes wonder if I should have just done that. Then we could have kept that house and, somehow lived with 2 houses in Lincoln on the salary of a journalist. That makes sense.
That would have been great. And then your life got interrupted. So I guess you're the better man for it.
Would you have been a boat guy?
I don't think so. So that's I very much would love to live on water, but I have almost no interest in buying, maintaining, operating, doing anything with the boat. Like, I want access to the people that have the boat. I'm willing to offer small amounts of money to ride the boat. I just don't want all the excess stuff that comes along with being a boat owner. I can barely handle being a car owner. Like, I don't know that I can, I don't know that really is going to translate well if I somehow was in position to have a boat. Like a paddle boat, sure, I can do that. A canoe, a kayak, those are things I can handle. If it has a motor, there's a good chance that I'm not the right person for the job.
John Butler, football is football. Other than, and I said this earlier, outside of the institutional knowledge that Evan Cooper had, I think he'll be able to do the football things. But it is also the recruiting part of it, which is in your wheelhouse. And he already started to talk to targets or guys that have committed. Will it be what kind of a transition do you think it will be for a guy that's been out of the college game for a while to get back in where you have to recruit, and the recruiting landscape is much different from the last time John Butler was in college?
Yeah, I think this is a hire that wouldn't have happened if Matt Rule wasn't relatively confident that John Butler could turn the gears on to recruit. I mean, I think if anyone would be well-versed in the idea of leaving the NFL world, coming back to the college world and the transition that requires, it would be Matt Rule. So I would anticipate during the process of determining that John Butler was the guy, he had to feel good about his ability to go out and recruit. And a lot of that is your defensive backs coach. You look through the history of what Nebraska's had at defensive backs and the coaches they've had. They've almost all been one of your better recruiters. Like, I can't think of a staff that I've covered where the defensive backs coach hasn't been a really important piece in your recruiting operation. I mean, that goes back to Bo, that continues through, Mike Riley, that continues through Scott Frost, and now we're into Matt Rule. And so John Butler, I think, has to be a factor in recruiting. He doesn't have to be your best recruiter. He doesn't have to be Evan Cooper when it comes to the evaluation. Nebraska's going to have to figure out how to replace both of those pieces. But John Butler is going to have to be a factor on the road. He's going to have to be a factor in the ears of recruits because if he's not, it just feels like that's too much of a loss. Like, I'm serious. Think about all the names Nebraska's had at defensive back coach throughout the last decade plus. We're talking Dante Williams. We're talking Terry Joseph. We're talking, Travis Fisher was probably the least accomplished recruiter of that group, and yet he was still pretty darn good when it came to, connecting with these recruits and several of the guys. And he had help. I mean, certainly there's always help. But several of the guys that he's had, went on to have nice careers and were pretty good players that he kind of identified. So I don't know that if you're Nebraska, you're ever looking to take a step back in the recruiting side of things at the defensive back coaching spot. And so I think John Butler has to be good on the road. So I feel like Matt Rule had to have gotten that feeling during the interview. And we know his resume speaks for itself as far as the coaching thing. I think Gary is 100% correct in that the on the field, the football side of it, I don't really have any questions there. And I don't really have a lot of questions with the hire. It's more so the fascination with how he got to the point that I would regard Evan Cooper as the closest coach in Matt Rule's staff. And now he's no longer there. What does that mean for Rule? What does that mean for the recruiting operation? Those are all things that we're going to be in wait and see mode.
Okay, so that's a great lead into this next one. Gary had brought this question up on Monday of Nebraska still looking for that hammer, if you will, when it comes to a coach on staff to be not necessarily the closer, because I think Matt Rule would still kind of be considered that guy, but the real presence amongst that coaching staff that when he shows up, he presents a really good pitch. Evan Cooper was a strong candidate amongst that staff. Who do you look at now on that staff that would be close to that hammer, if you will, or that real strong recruiting presence?
I don't know if there's somebody that you could really say that about. I mean, it's Tony White, but it's also hard, and we've seen this before when it was Eric Shenander. It's really hard when your defensive coordinator is also maybe your best recruiter, because it's such a split role. Like you need your defensive coordinator to do so many other things that he can't be that focused on recruiting. But if he's a really good recruiter, he's going to want to be involved in recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's one of those things where you would love for Tony White or whomever, your coordinators, to be good recruiters, but you don't want them to be your best guy. There's a reason, like a Larry Johnson Sr., the defensive line coach, just an unbelievable recruiter who also wasn't the Ohio State defensive coordinator. Like, it's just or Penn State for that matter too, when he was there. So it's a scenario where you would love to have one of these assistant coaches establish themselves as being the best recruiter on Nebraska's staff without this other coordinator role. I don't know who that is right now. And I don't know that I would have said that Evan Cooper, in terms of the recruitment side of things, was Nebraska's best recruiter, but he was involved in a lot of it. He was undoubtedly Matt Rule's eyes when it came to evaluation, though. And so that's where I don't know how that gets replaced. That's got to be an internal thing. I don't know if that's in the recruiting office. I don't know if they go out and they try to find, another analyst or two to help out. But he did a lot of the evaluation, and he was sort of the yay or nay on some players that Nebraska's really hit on. I'm thinking about Jalen Boyd. I'm thinking about, some of the guys they have coming up on their defense, that he sort of saw them and it's like, hey, what about this guy? And I think Nebraska benefited from that. So they're going to have to replace that in some way.
Hey, this is a favorite game of mine. Name former Nebraska assistant coaches, and you were rattling off a couple of guys. And there are some coaches that maybe were only here for a cup of coffee as assistant coaches that are some obscure names. Do you remember the name Scott Booker?
Yeah, he was, he was here in an unfortunate circumstance where Bob Elliott passed away. I don't want to go too far down this road, but there's always been a part of me a little bit better if Bob Elliott
100% with you. 100% with you.
Been there. I mean,
that's why he was coming.
Probably don't realize how important that relationship was. And then they kind of had to grab somebody, and on the fly. And not that Scott Booker isn't a professional, and he certainly was at Nebraska, but I don't think it was going to have the same impact as having Bob Elliott. And Bob Elliott, I think, could communicate in a way that maybe Bob Diaco wasn't able to, and could sort of help manage him as he was managing the roster. Anyway, Bob Elliott and Scott Booker, kind of just a unique situation there in 2017, and it's sort of we don't talk about that a lot in the what if scenario.
Well, and also I'm 100% with you because of Bob Elliott's acumen to help Diaco, but I also think he would have helped Mike Riley.
Yeah, I mean, Bob Elliott was a professional assistant coach through and through. I mean, you look at that guy's resume, you listen to the way people would talk about him. He was just really, really well revered. And not to make a strange comparison here, but there's not a whole lot of, I should say it like this. There's a lot of similarities there with John Butler. The way that John Butler is discussed in the profession, the way he's discussed by players that have been coached by him. I think that's a really well-respected, really well-liked guy. I think the value of what he can bring to the staff is immense. I mean, he's probably, if you think about it, you think of everyone they have on that staff, he's as experienced as a coach as they now have. I mean, that's quite a find in, early July when you have to make a move that you probably weren't anticipating you were going to make at this point.
Shafe, a big announcement of the practice for fans to be able to attend on August 3rd with the NIL component. We know what that does to 1890, what that does for what Nebraska wants to continue to fill with the NIL. It shows that they're outside the box thinking. It shows that they're willing to give fans access or experiences that otherwise they wouldn't get. If you're somebody that's considering Nebraska or somebody that is on the radar, and let's say you get 25, 30,000 people at a practice on a Saturday night in fall camp, what is that type of impact when it comes to how NIL impacts Nebraska's recruiting for future prospects?
Well, they can't have recruits there because it's during a dead period.
But when you hear about it and see it, and obviously it would make national headlines if Nebraska gets this huge turnout for something like this.
Yeah, I'd actually be relatively impressed if 25,000 people wanted to go watch practice. And they might, because it's Nebraska. Mm-hmm. And I think the excitement over Dylan Raiola and this upcoming season is going to be borderline fever pitch at that point. So, I could see that being a thing that stands out. I mean, the way Nebraska will do it, the way that it could definitely stand out is, in the component of that many people show up, and then Nebraska's award-winning video staff makes it into this great cinematography moment, and you flash that about on Twitter and on, your YouTube page and on the socials, and it gets back to the recruits and they see what that environment kind of looks like. But none of that really matters if they don't turn around and win games this upcoming season. None of that really matters if the NIL money doesn't find its way back towards the roster and to the recruits. It all looks nice. It all sounds good. It's a good idea. It's a really good idea. And the follow through on it, I'm sure, is going to be fantastic. But I don't know that it really ultimately is going to mean anything if they don't start winning football. We're sort of at that point, and obviously you can't win football games here in July as there is not games to be played. But I think we've kind of reached a point with NIL where, whatever Nebraska can do in that side of it is only going to be enhanced by the way that they go out and play on the football. They can come up with all the great ideas they want. They can fund as many things as they possibly can. You still got to go out and win football games. There's a reason Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama are going to go get the best players, and it's because they win a ton of football games. There's a reason Michigan's having a nice resurgence in recruiting right now under Sharon Morris, who's never really coached a critical game. It's because they just won the national championship. Like we can talk until we're blue in the face about Nebraska's resources and its environment and the fan base and the atmosphere and all of this stuff. It is now officially time to win a bunch of football games. And nobody knows that they're on the clock more than I think Matt Rule. And so he's got to manage the fact that, you know, there's probably a sense of desperation or urgency is probably a better word. Desperation's in the fan base. But there's an urgency to make this season count. And I think that's going to play over in how they talk, how they act, and everything as we lead up to the year.
I like the word that's been used as an obligation to the fans, to ourselves and to the fans. One of my favorite parts of the offseason on Liss is when everybody's favorite threesome gets together, and at Husker 24/7, you do the most indispensable Huskers. You're up to John Bullock at 11. Can
we just take a second and just marvel
about your threesome?
at John Bullock?
Oh,
no. We can always marvel at Husker 24/7. But John Bullock has made himself not only an indispensable Husker, but an unquestioned indispensable Husker. How many people would have thought that at this time last year?
I'm going to raise my hand and say, you and I may have had a discussion when he was a senior at Prep. And I'm like,
I sure. Like I know that there's talent there, but the idea that we're talking about
indispensable.
a Big
Yes,
Ten football,
I'm with you.
You know, like this is remarkable, and this is also quick side tangent. This is why Nebraska needs those rosters to stay around 110. You know, they can't really, for a program like Nebraska, the value they derive off of that is so huge that they can't afford for it to get knocked down to 100 or whatever.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought him up because I listened to Rob Dvorak last night, and it was almost like, you know, everybody's like, John Butler's going to be the next DC, and Dvorak's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But his linebacker room, which Bullock is part of, don't you think John Bullock is such a Matt Rule type guy that's why John Bullock can thrive here? Because I know which players Rule really likes or his assistants really like, because they don't go into their physical attributes. One of the first things out of their mouth when they describe a player is they love playing football. John Bullock loves playing football. Now, he has increased his ability to be able to stay on the field, but loves football, because I thought last night through my radio, I was going to have a relationship that was going to go from the radio to just blowing up between Dvorak and Vincent Shavers, who, when anybody that describes a kid who is an absolute steal for Nebraska, and you're back me up on this, Schaefer, they say he loves football. So I think guys that love football get elevated in this program.
Yeah, and then to take that a step further, the guys that are willing to line up at any position, whether they've never played it before, the guys that are going to show up on special teams, even if they have starting roles, the guys that are going to stay in the meeting room or in the position room or in the film room until the end of the night having football discussions or wanting to break things down or wanting to get that one last piece of knowledge before they shut their eyes for the day. I mean, yeah, that's Matt Rule. That's who he is. So, of course, he's going to love those type of players. It's not a surprise that a guy like John Bullock or Isaac Gifford thrived under him, or Vincent Shavers has a chance to, because they all, like you said, have that critical part of the football DNA that isn't always there. Some of the most talented people I've ever watched, I would not say love college football or love football. They play football. It's a means to the end. Some of these guys play because it's absolutely the first thing they think of when they wake up in the morning, and it's the last thing they think of before they go to bed at night. And there's a big difference, and those guys tend to get every ounce of talent out of themselves, and every ounce of effort that they put in is rewarding. And so, yeah, I think Vincent Shavers is going to be another one of those. What's fascinating is, as a recruit, I think he was really well regarded. People didn't know quite where to play him. He falls in that tweener size. And then I think there was some potential concerns about eligibility, but Nebraska did not have that. And he's someone that really is putting himself on the cusp of taking some playing time from a Mekhi Bayer, of taking some playing time from some of those guys in the inside linebacker room, not because they haven't earned it, but because he's almost making himself undeniable, making himself inevitable. And isn't that what, we hear Matt Rule sort of talk about in these situations and circumstances? And he's doing that as a true freshman. Like, that's pretty impressive.
Okay, so another guy, and I know you showcased him on a potential breakout profile, in a guy that I am fascinated to see this year because of now having another year of being healthy and a different quarterback that will be throwing him the football, and Thomas Fidone. I ask you this question, Shafe.
You're the guy that loves football.
Exactly, and that's why I bring him up as well. But I ask you this question, more important for Thomas Fidone to have that breakout year, the fact that it is his second year in a row with hopefully having any type of health issues behind him, or the type of guy that will be throwing him the football?
I mean, it's obviously a combination of both. But with all the respect to Dylan Raiola, the most exciting aspect of Thomas Fidone for 2024 is that this is the longest extended run of health he's had since high school.
Mm-hmm.
And, we tend to think of these players in video game terms where when they advance in age, their skill set keeps going up and they keep developing. But that wasn't really the case for a Fidone, where he lost 2 straight years of actually being able to go out and have reps, of being able to even practice. Like, he couldn't be a practice squad player because he was hurt. He couldn't get on the field. I mean, he had the famous tweet of wanting to be uncaged, and Nebraska couldn't do it because he wasn't cleared to play. So, I think the biggest thing going for Thomas Fidone is his health and the fact that he was able to put together a fully healthy spring. And that hasn't always, multiple of them now. And that's coming off of a fully healthy fall of 2023. So I think there's really no way to gauge just how good he could be this upcoming year, because we really haven't seen him have this extended run of health since he's come from Lewis Central. And I think because of that, regardless of who is throwing him the football, he's going to be a better player. Now, add in the fact that it's a quarterback with maybe a little bit better touch and isn't going to lead him, up into the air on some of those throws, can probably put it a little more accurately in a way that we could see him run. I mean, one of the things that maybe you guys remember this, one of the best plays that Thomas Fidone had in the entire season came against Michigan State, when he was able to catch the ball in stride and then also run after the catch. We didn't get to see that a lot last year. I think we're going to see that more on some of those drag routes. And potentially, if you forget about Thomas Fidone because of all the other weapons potentially in the passing game, that's a guy that can burn you too. Like, there's a lot of stuff we haven't seen from a player that's uber talented that makes it, a very, very easy breakout pick, almost to the point where it feels dumb to write the story. But, people want the content, so why wouldn't I put it out?
Hey, will we be surprised by number 1 on this list? Were you guys in agreement? Because one thing, if people haven't followed along, and I don't know why you're not, at the end, you all give what you selected. Like John Bullock, I think you had 12th. Brunson might have had 10th. He ends up 11th. Did you guys all have number 1 across the board?
I don't think so. I think we each had a different person, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
I think we each had a different person, if I recall correctly, because I think ultimately we each valued, if this person wasn't on the roster, what would it do for everything else, a little bit differently. But I think we had 3 different number 1s. I'd have to go back and consult. Part of the problem I have with this exercise is that we make the list in early June, and then it kind of just disappears from my head. So I'm sitting here trying to not second guess who I had at number 1, but I'm fairly certain that my name was different than BC's name. Maybe those two were the same, but I know that there's at least one split in it.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you as always. Enjoy your weekend, and may it be quiet in your universe.
Oh, we got some defensive back announcements. We'll see what the change in the coaching staff had to do with that. But 24/7 Sports will have Aiden Manikai later today announcing his commitment. Could it be Nebraska? I don't know.
Bryson,
I think the change in the coaches might have changed some things.
Quick one here. Bryson Weber still in?
Bryson Weber, I feel better about than Manitai. He's supposed to decide either Saturday or Sunday, but I think that one, Nebraska's sitting better at this point.
Fantastic, my friend. Have a good weekend.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Mike Schaefer, 24/7. Mike J. Schaefer on Twitter. I'm going 1 for 2. That would Bryson Weber keeping him in the fold would be that'd be a good first sign for John Butler.
Yep.
Who just has a simple name.
It is true. Just a household name.
I'm curious. We need to do a ranking of the best coach on the defensive side of the ball right now.
Just their name or just the actual best coach?
I mean, some like Dvorak.
Dvorak is kind of. Yeah.
Terrence Knighton sounds like a defensive line coach. They may have gotten it right with football coaches they have names that sound like the position they're coaching. But I think you got to have like a really cool name, like a really out there name, like a Dante.
Oh yeah.
Or a Marvin to be coaching defensive backs. Like was George a good defensive back coach name?
For the time it was. It was very blue collar. So yes, at the time I think it was.
George Allen.
Yeah, like if you have a George Darlington, then you think of if your group is going to represent the name, it's going to be very blue collar, hard hitting. So yeah, I think it's fine. But yeah, as far as the overall names now, if you had a George, you probably are left a little flat.
All right. Mr. Matthew Verzal will join us next on 1620 The Zone. Let me tell you about my friend who is going to join us right now. Very caring person, cares for others. He's an entrepreneur. It was many, many moons ago that the swaddling Matt Verzal was brought home, living there on West 15th Street in Grand Island. And now my man who wore 51 at Nebraska is turning 50, and he joins us now. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you, boys.
Yeah, big 5-0.
Huge day today. What we doing today?
We are open until 3,
Uh-huh.
and then we will be carry out only after 3. And they're setting up the tents outside right now, and people are gonna. I'm gonna run home, shower, and be back here by 3 p.m. And when you show up, you show up. We'll see how long we can go. We've got some threatening to come at like midnight. So we are doing a home opener prep round 2.
It is Verse Fest today.
So is this open to the public?
Mm.
There were invites that were sent out.
Okay.
Yes.
But kind of figuring some people are just going to show up. There's one guy, Rich. He is going to be super pissed off. But
all right.
Rich usually eats on Friday about 4. He's going to be mad. Rich will just have to deal with it today.
When I saw that there was going to be a shuttle service available from Scott, I thought, oh boy, buckle up. Here we go.
Yeah, our parking lot isn't real big, and then I'm taking 6 of the parking spots with 2 tents. So we'll have beer garden, tents, and then the inside seating area.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you later today. I appreciate it, and happy birthday, my man. I a picture that I just tweeted out to wish you a happy 50th. I think you would really, really like, because it is 2 of your favorite people of all time, and I'm not talking about teammates. I'm talking about who your 2 coaches were at Nebraska. So I hope you appreciate that picture. I found it online for you.
It's one of the best pictures ever. People laugh. Those Doc Martin sandals were so comfortable.
They were the Jesus Christ sandals. I had a pair of those.
They were unbelievable. But yeah, that's my squad. Drew and Mike and Dish. This is actually moving back to Kearney, so I don't know if we'll get a dish sighting tonight, but all the boys have been invited. Taylor's ready to roll. T. Frazier's ready to roll, so we'll see what kind of shenanigans we get into tonight.
Hey, what we're let's get some insight. Again,
some story tonight.
I tweeted the picture out so people can see it. Picture day before the season starts, like you do it by position group. How fired up were Coach Tenneper and Coach Young to take those pictures with their linemen?
It's probably one of the better things that's happened in my life, where the coaches that I had, from Coach Fisher and GI to Milt and Dan, is it not to the extent of Fellini, but you learn a phrase real quick: the people that matter. And so they love their room. They love the guys in there. You know, a drop of a hat, you do anything for your guys because they're your guys. And when you can, I've been so blessed and fortunate to have men in my life like them, and like my father and my grandfather and all that kind of stuff. So it's super cool to just be able to kind of carry that on and pass it, because I think kids now, they think there's always something better, or they're going to go to a better organization or better team instead of sticking it out and making their team better. And that's one thing I will always forever be thankful for all of my coaches ever. It's been an awesome experience, and then to get to see and coach with my buddies and watch them kind of pass it on has been crazy, crazy fun.
Okay, so and passing it on too, with what you've done at the high school level, you bring up an interesting part of just leadership, of what you had a chance to experience, what a lot of people in various sports and really just different facets of life that are around that age that you're 50. Gary and I aren't too far behind when it comes to that too, as far as where we are in age. And I remember some of the toughest coaches that I ever had, especially one guy in particular in basketball, that during practices, I absolutely hated him in the moment, but I loved when you would get that reassurance of what you were doing. When you finally did something right, that he was there to give you an attababy as well. But then you understand it as you get older. How tough is it right now? When you're trying to use that type of experience and you're trying to let those guys know, hey, this is all going to make sense to you. Even if you don't get it now, this is all going to make sense to you. Is that absorbed from the most part from what you experience when it comes to handling offensive linemen in high school, or just the average high school football player?
Kids, like, they really want communication. So if you just tell them, like, hey, you're not going to like me until you get older. And then it's going to make sense. And if you stick your right arm up, full extension above your head, and you say, this is my expectation of you, and then you put it about your shoulder level, and you'll say, this is your expectation of you, somewhere in the middle, we're going to be right. And we're going to work till we get to the middle where you overachieve, and I think that you're doing better than I thought you could, because you're never going to meet my standard. One of my guys, when he graduated, Blake Anderson, he wrote me a very nice letter, and it said, the first phrase of it was, thank you for all you've done. I hated you at first. I thought you were mean. But then I realized you were just trying to make me great. And that kind of deal. Like, I've got friends. Okay. I don't need my players or the guys that I work with to be my buddies right away.
Yep.
Down the road, we're going to be good friends. Because they're like, damn, that guy, you were trying to get the best out of him. I'm like, yeah, that's all I want. I want you to be better than you thought you could be. And now on week 3, I'll have my sideline pass, and I get to watch Blake start from Northern Iowa against Durham, Nebraska.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
I'll be wearing, his mom cornered me. She's like, what color are you wearing? I was like, black. Like, non-committal for anything. There you go.
Hey.
But it'll be fun, and that's what it's about. Like, coaching and that kind of thing. I just want the boys to have a positive outlook on life, regardless of what they do. I don't care if you're 6'5", 290 like Blake, or if you're 5'8", 140 like Scotty Robotham and Malcolm. Like, you can play and you can be great, but you can also be part of this organization that's going to go and do great things.
Hey, you guys overlap by a year. I was looking at the Nebraska Football Hall of Fame names that came out yesterday, and it's another really, really strong class that's got good representation from a bunch of different eras. You have a memory of Tyrone Bird?
Man, T. Bird was a dog. Like, he was very, like, not like yeller screamer kind of guy, but he would give you a look. Like, he was like, hey, well, this is really what we're doing. And so many of those guys respected him and how he played, and it was just awesome to see. And I'm so happy for him. He's just a great dude. And he earned it, deserved it, hell of a player. You knew it wasn't going to go bad when T-Bird was in the game. And so that's awesome to see. T. Farley's in there too.
Yep.
If there's, and I just was looking at the picture that Gary sent out too, you get to that point of your career that you understand that either you're going to be playing at the next level or not, but it's going to be the last time with those guys. This is always the cliche senior day question that you ask a senior, but now you have perspective on being away, and a lot of those guys you're still in contact with, because we always hear about the brotherhood or the family aspect of it. How does that overall, we've talked about this before, Vers, but that overall brotherhood with your class, in your opinion, where does that really take shape the most? I mean, is it right away your freshman year and you guys are going through the same stuff, or is that something sophomore, junior year that all of a sudden it's like, okay, this bond is unbreakable?
It's early. I mean, listen, people and animals aren't that far apart, right? Everybody's going to break, and that's what the deal was. Like, they broke you and then they built you back up. And so when you're all in it together, and now at that time, we had 2.5 weeks of 2-a-days for the Shrine Bowl. We had 2 weeks of freshman 2-a-days, so just freshmen, and then the varsity showed up. So we're through 2 weeks of freshman 2-a-days in Nebraska. Like, we are awesome. Like, we are freaking smart. We get all this. And then these mutants all show up, and you're like, oh my God, where did these people come from? And then some of them that showed up had gotten you in high school, like Rob Zaleska. And then other ones that were going to get you, like Will Shields, were in the mix. You're like, oh boy. But then you had guys like Jimmy Scott and Kenny Miller, and like, hey, you're going to get it. So just grind. Like, get up. We've all been knocked down. Just get up and do your thing. And so, yeah, okay, dude, sounds good. But that then when you get in and you're all in the dorm and you're all kind of living the same life and you all want to go home, but you can't. And you deal with it. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. Those guys, ride or dies, day ones, we're thick as thieves. It'll be stories flying around tonight. So I'm looking forward to it. And I've got boys that I've coached at Malcolm that are coming and all the schools. And so it'll be a good trip down memory lane for the first 50. We'll see how much longer we can make it after 50. Men in my family, nobody's made it past 57, so we'll see what happens. Either got 7 to go, or we're going to go to 8 just to beat everybody.
On that note, happy
Nobody likes that one.
No. I mean, I get it, and you've mentioned it privately before, but you've made it to 50, and I will see you later. I appreciate it, and looking forward to it.
Sounds good, bud. Thank you, guys.
That's Matt Verzal, 51, turning 50 today.
I feel like 50 should be an appropriate good bash for him, but what about 51 when he becomes 51? Not many people would probably celebrate their 51st. I feel like there needs to be something significant for his 51st.
Telling it could just be an absolute gong show over there.
If you're doing it right, should be.
Yeah, I'd expect some really good either stories you can tell or just that I trust it'll be a very, very good
the story time alone should be phenomenal.
Yeah.
So it's one of my favorite parts about the segment is the stories that we get.
Oh,
so that'll be amped up to the 10th degree tonight.
So Ver's mentioning a couple of guys that are going to be there. Will there be collectors? 156th and center.
They're going to be hanging out in the corner there on 156th and center, just maybe outside of where they could actually come over there, but they have that curious look of holding the jersey.
I saw T. Frage not too long ago. He looks good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think the last time I saw it. It's been within a year.
Well, they all played at the Team Jack golf event. T. Frage looks good.
Good. That's good.
They'll line up in the parking lot and play. They'll run a play for old time's sake.
You understand, though, if
a run play, of course.
If that got out to social media, that anything like that might happen, you'd have at least 20 people show up.
You might have that anyway. That listen to the station.
Exactly. But
they know where Pisons is.
There might be some collectors. There very well could be some collectors.
There's a billboard near there.
By now, don't you have like everything you've ever wanted from Tommy Frazier? You've had him sign at this point.
Go get a picture.
As long as you're willing to pay.
We're 30 years since T. Frage was under center.
I think every buddy of mine's Husker man cave or basement, whatever it is, there's always a football or a helmet or both.
Mm-hmm.
And it always has 2 signatures.
T.O.
Okay, 3.
Okay.
Crouch, T.O., and Frazier.
Oh, that's...
The Crouch one is we're now so further along in life. He's my age at 45. He's been around long enough. I mean, he's never left that you've probably gotten Crouch's autograph by now too.
One of the most elusive ones that I have searched for, and it is rare out there, and even his best friend doesn't have anything. And he didn't sign a lot, is a Lawrence Phillips autograph. Greatest running back ever to play at Nebraska. I've searched. There are a few items I have seen that have LP's signature on them, but they are very, very rare.
Yeah.
But no, when I go into somebody's place, and I mean, I've told the story before. I have an authentic game used helmet from back in the 90s that I've had every coach starting with T.O. sign.
Yeah.
You know, even I went to Callahan, I went to Riley.
Did Bill do it glowingly?
He was just curious on the helmet.
Okay.
And I didn't do it personally. I gave the helmet. And those are when you have good friends in the equipment office.
There you go.
But yeah, like a T.O., everybody got T.O.
Yeah.
And you're right, T. Frage.
Mm-hmm.
And then they probably got an Eric Crouch that Gary Sharp was doing.
Were you his designated signer?
Somebody who used to be in the athletic department. to help out Eric, signed a lot of Eric Kropp stuff because he was just besieged. I mean, he'd get boxes and boxes of requests for autographs.
Was it pretty spot on?
Playing school.
Did they have it down?
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh. So do you think I should ask people when I see them, like, do you know if he really signed that?
It is there's a certain way that Eric on his own would do the E.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, it's not the number sign with the 7. It's just a 7. I don't think there's like a number in front, like a number sign in front of it. It's just a 7, if I remember correctly.
All right, we'll come back. We'll put a wrap on it.
Dude's naming autographs. That's a good way to end the week.
Okay, so
dude's naming autograph styles.
So my UPS driver, Chad, says he does have an LP signature.
Oh,
Jesus, he got the whole team on the 95 poster. I hope that thing is framed.
Yeah, hell yeah.
No, they're just
that should be in the Nebraska Football Hall of Fame.
Like
college football.
LP didn't sign a lot of autographs, so of like the guys from that era, it is really, really rare. I thought that I for a while, even after his passing, I didn't see a lot of Behringer autographs.
Yeah,
but now I've seen him a lot more.
That's the one I thought you were going to bring up was Brooke Behringer.
Like LP is the guy off that team. LP is the guy that it's one of the toughest to find a signature from.
So I have a Brooke Behringer autograph because I got the book when I was in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he was at I think it was a Barnes and Noble in Omaha. It was over by, I think it was the one that was over by Crossroads, if I remember correctly. But yeah, he was there doing an appearance. He was signing the book, and so I got the Lindley book signed by Brooke Behringer. Saw him at a Big Fred's once too.
Was he signing there too?
No, he was just there. He was there having dinner with his. I think was she his fiance? I'm trying to remember if they were engaged or if it was just his girlfriend.
That was a pizza.
Big Fred's, man. It was great.
I've never been.
It was greasy and good.
And it was probably it's still a good place, but a little bit better because Fred was involved.
Yes.
That's a place where I like going. I'll never figure out the parking lot over there at Big Fred's. Like it's such a weird parking lot. Like I like to go to the bagel bin, but I don't like to drive straight up in the air to get to my parking spot. I kid because I care. I really love bagel bin. I also like Big Fred's. Big Fred's is one of those places you walk into and you're like, everybody in here knows everybody.
Yes.
Like everybody knows everybody, and they all grew up in the neighborhood around 120th and Center.
And if you see younger people, like maybe in their 30s or 20s, chances are their dad took them there when they were younger. So now they're just customers through that experience as well.
And one of our listeners emailed me about there. That's why I asked.
No, Big Fred's is good.
It's really good.
I like, I haven't had it in a while, but Johnny Sortino's, I always like that. I think it's kind of similar because it's more of that flat, but very greasy, but very good. I think the two are comparable. You got really good onion rings too at Big Fred's. Ooh, really, really good onion rings.
Now, onion rings paired with pizza better than fries paired with pizza. That is not a bad 1620 The Zone.
No,
that's
in fact,
food take.
I'm more
That's
used to
appropriate.
that. I'm more used to that.
It makes more sense.
They put onions on pizza.
Yeah, they do. It's what I grew up with more.
Like I'm not going to get a pizza, and I could get like a burrito on the side.
You know what that parking lot, by the way, invokes?
What?
The old Midwestern cliche of, I bet this is terrible in the winter.
Exactly.
That's actually what I thought when you said. I didn't want to say it.
Okay, so I've
that's the parking lot does it more than
I've never had this question answered. Is there a reason that where Big Fred's is, and then there's a Scooters, and then there's the bagel bin and that strip mall, and then at the end,
there used to be a Tanner's.
And on the other side is where Brother Sebastian's is, and Tanner's is across the street.
Yeah.
But why is the parking lot like that?
I don't know.
Plate tectonics?
I don't know if it's on top of an old landfill. I'm not sure. Makes
fault
no
line?
sense.
Wow.
Yeah, you got a restaurant on top of a landfill.
Boy, you did great for their lunch crowd today.
It's really good food.
I'm trying to make sense of the inconsistent terrain there.
Isn't Bailey's by there too?
It's a little bit further.
That's the place you sent me.
120th.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's a little bit further.
Shout out to them.
And it's right next to a Broncos.
Yeah.
By Office
Look
West.
at this. Dude's naming 120th and Center.
Is Office West still going? Office West was right by Broncos, right by Bailey's.
So.
Okay. That was...
Ken emailed earlier about the fries at Broncos, and he will die on that hill that they're the best.
Hey, can you imagine if you went to school across the street there? It's a Catholic elementary school, correct?
Yeah, it's a Catholic school.
You got all kinds of options, like to skip out of school and go across the street.
Especially if you're a teacher.
Go have a heater.
Maybe there's a reason why there's a couple of drinking spots right next to that Catholic school.
Makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, a little bit.
All right, we're back to put a wrap on this one
like
after
our wine.
this. They need a victory today because the Chicago Cubs swept the Baltimore Orioles.
You're back in, aren't you?
Well,
you're back in. You're only a few games behind the wild card.
Our run differential is only -5 now. Steele is pitching great. Cubs swept Baltimore. We're on to St. Louis. And
it's a hell of a sweep.
Cade Povich pitches today for the Orioles against Garrett Cole.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit different from going up against a guy from Bellevue East. So
Garrett Cole, I remember him.
Povich against Cole. You know, we have
Thanks,
we
AJ
kind
Hitch.
of we take jabs at the ESPYs, and they had a little rough night last night. They got a late start because of the press conference by the president.
Mm-hmm.
So some local stations that they go to news at 10 just cut them off.
Mm-hmm.
They had
like Billy
Can't
Joel.
blame them.
They were talking about death, and the next shot they see is DeMar Hamlin.
Yeah.
They had some glitches, especially on the final award. But one thing they do is when they give out the Arthur Ashe Award, I can't believe this. This just shows you the human ability of perseverance. And anybody that knows somebody or has somebody in their family that is dealing with ALS, it is awful.
Mm-hmm.
It is terrible. And God bless the people that are caretakers for anybody that has ALS, because it's not easy on the caretakers. It's not easy on the person. And there is so much strength shown by people that I know that have ALS that are not going to let it slow them down, even though there are things that do slow them down. They're going to keep fighting. And the people that take care of them and are trying to help the cause, God bless you. I have been involved in ALS and Lou Gehrig's for a long time, and we're gonna find a cure. But Steve Gleason was honored last night, the former New Orleans Saints defensive back, and he got the Arthur Ashe. I don't know what to say. That he's the epitome of true strength.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just watch only that from the ESPYs and that clip, and what his speech was, incredible. Man, his perseverance and to be still with us.
Yeah.
And to bringing attention and fighting and telling his story, that's an incredible moment. And it was 10 years ago that Stuart Scott got up and told his story and his journey. And man, I watched it last night. I didn't watch the show, but I saw the clip. I got to admit, I got teary-eyed. So watch it, please. It'll remind you again that we can fight. And Steve Gleason, what a moment last night, and what a moment he has had, and just continues to persevere. Unbelievable.
Was given 3 years to live, and now more than 10 years because he was diagnosed with ALS in 2013. And I bring up the most iconic moment of his playing career when the Saints returned to the Dome after Hurricane Katrina. The place is just juiced, absolutely amped. He provides the biggest spark right out of the gate with the punt block, leads to a touchdown. You see him just running around, the wild hair and everything. And then you, unfortunately, as we see with people with ALS, you see him reduced to the chair. Yet in that speech, there was always that wildness to his personality. And I know Drew Brees has spoke about this a lot, and it was very fitting that Drew Brees was there to hand out the award. When he talks about, if you haven't dealt with isolation, and I'm paraphrasing, adverse situations, fear, then walk your ass out of here.
Yeah.
And it got a laugh out of everyone too, because it was very, from what I've understood, listen to Drew Brees talk about it, was very consistent with his personality. But those moments, you're right. The ESPYs, and we kind of talked about this the other day, the ESPYs are maybe not necessarily appointment television. Those moments in the ESPYs continue to be, if you didn't watch it live, you have to go back and see it.
Yeah, great moment. I want to finish on this though. Back to Office West. So
bring it all back.
Well, we can't. I mean,
I've had some nights there.
The Steve Gleason story, that's the epitome of fight.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I highly recommend everybody listen to him and whenever he speaks. But we got to finish with Office West. So the St. Robert's that's across the street from there. We've gotten word that if you want to really have an experience at Office West, you may see some moms that don't want to get in line yet to pick up their kids that may stop there, and some teachers may be there as well.
Hell, that was when we would go on Friday nights and Saturday nights. I think we saw some moms that still weren't ready to pick up their kids.
Hey, I mean, if you're thinking about, opening a bar next to a school, you got teachers having a little stress, you got parents that don't want to stay in line. Okay. Now that I'm not advocating, stop for a drink, pick up your kid.
Right.
I'm not Mike Gundy. But
no,
there we
Uber.
go. There we go. I've only been to Office West once. I went to actually
birthday party.
No, a memorial.
Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh.
But it shows you what kind of a good memorial it was. It was at a bar.
If it was at Office West, I know.
All right. Good week, everybody. We'll see what Monday brings. Will we have another Friday news dump involving a local college? Will we go 2 for 2? Get it out of the way because next Friday is the video game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I can't wait.
All right.
They can really do it next Friday, too.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Make memories. Stay safe. Be smart. Stay cool. The air may or may not be coming on in my house. I'll let you know on Monday.
Okay.
Make memories. Live, laugh, punt. And we'll talk to you on Monday. Crossover is next.